Good evening, Tillamook High School football fans. It's state semifinal action as the OSAA On Point Community Credit Union state championship football playoffs at Barlow High School between the Tillamook Cheesemakers and the LaGrande Tigers. Cheesemakers have been in the state semifinals only twice in the history of the school. They're 1-1 in those ventures. They lost at home to Hood River in a close game, 14-7, I believe. And the other game in the semis they had in 1977, they beat Cascade 28-18 to go on to the state championship game. Those are the only two teams in the history of Tillamook football that have advanced this far. So a huge night for Cheesemaker fans. They're the underdog. They're the sixth-ranked team in the state. They're taking on LaGrande, who is the number 2-ranked team in the state. Both teams are 9-2 on the season. LaGrande averages 38 points a game. Tillamook averages 32. LaGrande gives up 16 points a game. Tillamook gives up 11 points a game. Average win for LaGrande is 22. Average win for Tillamook point spread is 21. They're pretty darn even, and there is not a team between them that both teams have played. No common opponents throughout the entire schedule, which is hard to do at the 4A level to get to this point, but that's part of LaGrande being from the east side. They have a great tradition, having won a state title a couple years ago, and they are on a great run of athletes. The last time Tillamook played LaGrande in a meaningful game, it was the junior year of Ian Collette in basketball when LaGrande was ranked number 2 and Tillamook went over to their house and beat them. That's the last best memory the Cheesemakers have between the Cheesemakers and the LaGrande Tigers. From Barlow High School, great semifinal action here, a good crowd on hand, more Tillamook people than LaGrande people in this big stadium on a very cold night, 36 degrees and about a 20-mile-an-hour wind blowing. Those two things, when you put them together, means uncomfortable. Not for us, we're in a press box, but for everybody down there. Cheesemakers and the Tigers coming your way. We're going to talk to head coach Kai Johnson after this word from the Tillamook Bay Community College. Welcome back to Cheesemaker Football and Warm-Up Time, brought to you by the Tillamook Bay Community College. As title sponsor of the OSAA State Championships, On Point does everything it can to help our team and community get ahead. On Point delivers the local banking and lending its members need to reach their goals and make more possible. Visit On Point at onpointcu.com. On Point is federally insured by the NCUA. Cheesemakers and the LaGrande Tigers here tonight in Barlow High School in Gresham, as the Cheesemakers find themselves looking up at a team that everybody in the state thinks is going to beat them. We'll see if that's the case. And we had a chance to talk to Tillamook head coach Kai Johnson before tonight's game, and here's what he had to say. Kai, coming in tonight's game, first of all, let's look back last week, semifinal game, Gladstone. They were really a good football team, competed well, but you're the better team on the field. And now you're in the semis. That's got to be exciting.
Yeah, this is exactly what we aim for when we start a season and get groups in from 8th grade and project where that's going to be in 4 years and keeping guys out and wanting them to do multiple sports and stay involved and lift weights and watch film and just do all the things that are required of, a lot of teams are talented, but it takes you making your own breaks and having a dedicated group and just a lot of – and some luck. I mean, that always is a part of a good postseason run as well. So we've had all of that this year. This group is as tenacious as any group that I've coached in Tillamook for sure. It's a group of guys that love football. We have a lot of seniors out. And, we've put together a good season. So we don't just – hand out helmets and shoulder pads at the start of the year with the expectation that we'll be doing this for 9 games and then hang them back up. And took a while for that expectation to change. And, this is the first time we've made it this far since 89. Is that what we've been saying all week? 1989. So I was a 1-year-old. And just awesome. I'm just happy for all of us. I'm happy for the people listening at home that care about Cheesemaker football, and all of our coaches, basically except for myself, are former Cheesemaker players. They're excited. Our players are excited. Parents are excited. It's good deal to be a part of right now for sure.
Yeah, you've celebrated this week the fact that this is only the third time in the history of Tillamook sports or Tillamook football that you've made it or a team's made it to the state semifinals. I was a piece to the other two, once as a player, once as a coach. It's a pretty special time to get to this. Have the kids taken this week as something really to appreciate as special, or is it just another week and another game to them?
I think maybe a little bit of both. You know, we had an assembly and some stuff like that during the week to celebrate how cool and special it is to be a Final Four team. And so I think it'd be hard to ignore all of that for sure. But, you know, the only thing different for us this week is that everybody's tired of practicing. So we've been practicing less hours on the field and just trying to be shorter and more efficient with our time. And it's not like we're trying to, add skill sets to players at this point in the season. They're developed the skill sets that they need. We just need to be clean in our concepts and the little details. So that's kind of what our focus has been on this week. And then it's been cold and windy too. So, being on the coast when you get easterly weather like that, like it throws everybody for a little loop, and it definitely was different this week, but east winds tonight too, so it's not like we haven't been practicing in it. And actually, and you or me were just saying this is as good a weather as we've had almost in the last month after all the crazy weather we had at home. So yeah, it's I don't think that anybody's like overly nervous or anything like that. That's one of the very first things that I talked to you about this year in Marshfield, was that I never got the impression from this group that they were going to be, the moment was ever going to be too big for them. Just a lot of guys that have experience at state wrestling and just kind of their demeanors in general. I don't think they fear very much, which has been a good deal for us. So need to take care of the football and play some clean football tonight, and I think we're going to be okay.
Yeah, you come in maybe the first time since Scappoose and only one of the third or fourth times in the last couple months as the underdog in this. Everybody expects LaGrande to roll into the state finals. They've got a huge powerhouse of a program going over there, won the state championship here just a little bit ago, and they're loaded this year as well. Have you taken that underdog approach this week, and what do you have to do in order to win?
Well, in terms of underdog and favorite, it just is what it is. We can't control that. We can't control, what media people say and social media and online or whatever. There's actually a fair amount of attention on 4A football in today's world. Like, you can go out and find it for sure, and a lot of random people that don't necessarily coach or play or watch a lot of film at 4A have opinions on it. So our guys have had fun with that all year. We've been an underdog in a lot of games. I mean, they didn't pick us to win a Seaside game. Gladstone last week, we were an underdog in a lot of people's eyes. So I think I looked at one website just out of curiosity, and I think they had 10 media members. All 10 picked LaGrande, and I just put a smile on my face. Like, we wouldn't want it any other way. That's just kind of the deal for us right now. So I guess we'll come out with the attitude that we're going to shock everybody again tonight, and that's all right. I know that we're a tough team, and we've got some matchups that we like against these guys. So in terms of what we have to do, we have to do a good job blocking at the line of scrimmage. They do some stunts and some twists. They have good bodies inside. They play physical. We have to be pretty on point, especially in our pass protection, because they play some games with their defense. They play a forefront, and they're athletic. So they'll play a few games, and we got to do a good job of picking up those blitzes. But and if we can't, then we've got to get our running backs out, and we got to get the ball out of our hands. And we've done a better job of that as the season's gone on. And then defensively, we're going to have to create some turnovers or cause some havoc tonight, because they have some explosive kids. Number 1 and number 3 are good-looking receivers. 18, their tight end, I think he's the coach's son. He's been a little in and out of the lineup, but he's over there tonight. He's a good-looking kid. And then their quarterback might be the best Q we've seen so far this year. He's a little bit he's kind of like Johnny Manziel is what when we saw him on film, we're like, he reminds me of Johnny Manziel, the way he runs and throws. So he does a little bit of it all. He's definitely their engine. And those same disruptive defensive linemen are pretty good up front on the offensive side too. So they're a good football team, and there's just no way that you can get to a state semifinal and play somebody that's not a good team. So I think our guys are going to be up for the challenge, and LaGrande is going to give us everything that we can bargain for tonight. So we got to be ready to just play good, clean, hard football, and that's the best that we can do.
Is there any? And again, we'd like to thank tonight Kai Johnson for his comments before the game on warm-up time. We'll be back with the starting lineups and more on warm-up time after this word from the Tillamook Bay Community College. Welcome back to Cheesemaker Football and warm-up time, brought to you by the Tillamook Bay Community College. We're at Barlow High School between the Cheesemakers and the LaGrande Tigers. This OSAA On Point Credit Union State Football Championship action. For over 45 years, Pacific Office Automation has remained locally owned and operated, supporting the community and people and places that matter. That's why Pacific Office Automation continues to sponsor the OSAA year after year. Pacific Office Automation, problem solved. Cheesemakers come into tonight's game with a 9-2 record as Coapa League champions, an undefeated Coapa League run, and LaGrande comes in 9-2 as Greater Oregon League champions with a 5-0 run there as well. Both teams very, very similar on paper. Let's look at the starting lineups. First of all, for LaGrande on the line, it's going to be Meyer Whitmore, and he's a big one at 6'3", 270, and a senior. Ryan Vanderzanden, 6'1", 240, and a senior. Jack Sunderman is 6 foot, 210 pounds. Kenai Huff, 6 foot and 210 pounds as well. They've got 18 seniors on their program. The key to them is the quarterback, Logan Williams, and then the running back is Dominic Fields, and their wideouts are Jay Show and Joshua Collins. Starting lineup for the Cheesemakers, same as we've seen over the past several weeks. In the line, it's Sam Diaz, Austin Barry Killian, Ken Lopez, Seth Landolt, and Landon Simmons. In the backfield, it's triggered by quarterback Tanner Hoskins. Running back will be Judah Werner, and then the slots and wideouts are Parker McKibben, Tyler Moncrief, Sion Hurleman, and Garrison Gunder. It is a cold and windy night on the east side of Portland here in Gresham, and we are ready for football. This has been warm-up time brought to you by the Tillamook Bay Community College. This is Randy Shield along with Matt Strang. Matt, key to tonight's game.
Key to tonight's game is going to be containing LaGrande's quarterback. Like Coach Johnson said in that interview, he's probably the best player on the field. He's their LaGrande's motor. If we can contain him, because he can run the ball really well, he makes a lot of things happen. So if we can contain him, keep him between the tackles, I think that's what's going to help us win this game. Yeah, and that's easier said than done from what people have said. They're going to kick the ball right to left, or the Cheesemakers. You can't really tell exactly which way the wind is blowing here. It's kind of blowing from behind us. They said it may die down about game time, and so we'll see if that's actually the case, because wind chill was about 25 out there on the field when we were out there earlier. We came all prepared, and then we got a spot in the warm press box, and I'm not going to complain about that one bit. As the Cheesemakers get ready, they'll kick right to left across your radio dial. State semifinal action. Cheesemakers are in their all-white uniforms with red numbers and black helmets, bouncing around trying to stay warm. LaGrande in their blue with white numbers and blue helmets, and it's going to be Hoskins for the Cheesemakers that will kick right to left across your radio dial, somewhat with the wind. He approaches the ball, and we're underway. He kicks it high, deep, going to be fielded at the 5-yard line. Back up to the 10, to the 15. Got some people to beat there, and he does, out across the 20, 25. He's got one guy to beat at the 40, 45, 47 down there, and that is Show, one of the receivers. Cheesemakers had great shots at him and could not bring him down, and so to open up the ball game, LaGrande has great field position at their own 47. Not what you wanted when you kick the ball deep, but you put it in the hands of one of their best athletes as well, and those things are bound to happen then. Show is going to go wide to the right side. The quarterback, Logan Williams, in the shotgun set. LaGrande runs much the same stuff that Tillamook runs. They'll hand off into the line. Off right tackle, good hole up the middle, 40, 50, 40,
down to the 37-yard line. He fell down there without being tackled as Fields on the run carried it off tackle on the right side and made it look easy. And that's been a place where the Cheesemakers have been a little bit vulnerable, is off tackle. They've been strong in the middle with Sam Diaz. Off tackle, that hasn't necessarily been the case much of this season. So LaGrande here quickly on the move. Cheesemakers reeling a little bit. It's 1st and 10. Williams at quarterback again in the shotgun with Fields off to his right. Takes a snap, hands the same play going the other way. Fields breaks one tackle, going to get ahead for about 5 yards on it, as the Cheesemakers didn't have a good hat on him or good contact, but they tripped him up in the backfield as he moved forward on the first down play. And LaGrande in 2 plays, hopefully that's not indicative of the entire night. They certainly have controlled the line of scrimmage so far. Ball sits on the hash mark left, as LaGrande now at the 33 of the Cheesemakers on their opening drive of the night. LaGrande, receivers both directions, and now across the formation goes Show, and quarterback's going to keep it. His first carry up the middle, he dropped the ball. Oh, LaGrande got back on it, I believe. Oh, Tillamook says they got on it, and it is. Cheesemakers get it back on the turnover at their own 30-yard line, and so the fumble by the quarterback and the Cheesemakers, as Williams was going through the line, just had the ball pop loose. It laid on the ground. It looked like one of the LaGrande players had landed on it, but then Sam Diaz was on the bottom, and he might have just muscled that away. So the Cheesemakers, benefit of the first turnover of the ball game, will get the ball at their own 31-yard line. Big break for Tillamook right off the bat as LaGrande was moving the ball nicely. In a handoff and pro set near side, it's Werner. Werner gets the hole out across the 35 to the 40. He's going to pick up about 12 yards on his first carry of the night. So both teams showing that they can move the ball, as the Cheesemakers have it set at their own 44-yard line. And again, that was nothing new or special as Tillamook went into the pro set, led with Whitlatch, and followed with Werner in the ball. 3 receivers to the right side. They'll hand to Werner. He's going to kick it to the outside. Got a nice block. He's going to try to run to the corner. He slips going around the corner at the 45. He gets up to about the 48. He's going to pick up 5 on the carry. He could have had more, but ended up falling down out there before he got contact, but a nice first down play for the Cheesemakers.
Yeah, he got the edge there. I think he could have had, if he didn't slip, an easy first down. That's what it looked like from here.
2 backs in the backfield with the Cheesemakers. Hoskins at quarterback as well. Snap is going to go. Cheesemakers moved early. Throw is high and incomplete, but there are flags down in both cases, and I believe that's going to be an illegal procedure penalty against Whitlatch. Looked like he got an early start in the backfield.
Yeah, that's what I saw too.
And they're going to talk to the coaching staff and have to decide whether to take him back and make it 2nd down and 10 or leave it right there and make it 3rd down and 5. Looks to me like Tillamook at least thinks they accepted the penalty because they marched back, and now the officials are going to actually move the ball, which is a good idea when you actually accept a penalty. And it will be right back to the line of scrimmage before that first down run, and it'll be 2nd down and 10. So still 2 plays to try to get that 10 yards underway. First possession of the night for the Cheesemakers, who have shown that they can move the ball against LaGrande here early. You can see the jerseys blowing down there as the wind now with the flags is blowing right to left. That'd be at the Cheesemakers' backs. Looking to the left at the 3 receivers. Shotgun set. Here comes an extra receiver or rusher. They throw it out to Werner, and he dropped it.
And that was a perfect read by Hoskins. That the linebacker blitzed, and as soon as he saw that, he went to his dump-off guy, which was Judah. That could have gone for an easy 4 or 5 yards. He tried to get the yards before he caught it.
Yeah, he wasn't going to get 20 out of it, but, well, he breaks a lot of tackles, so who knows?
You never know with Judah.
But Maciel comes into the ball game at a receiver, and it'll be 3rd down and 10 Cheesemakers at their own 44. So right now the penalty looks to be something that has possibly stalled the drive unless they come up with a big play here. They'll send motion out of the backfield. Looks right. They're going to throw a screen. They've got some room. Judah Werner in the middle. He breaks one tackle. He's going to be short of the first down by about 4 yards as he gets it just across midfield. And now we'll see if the Cheesemakers going to play possession game or if they're going to go for it. They come right to the line of scrimmage, do not huddle at all, and they get ready to go. 4th and 4. And the hard count, they jumped off sides, and there's the flag. Great play by the Cheesemakers to draw LaGrande off sides with the old no play, the sloth as they call it now, and that will get them 5 yards of the first down. Good coaching there by the Cheesemakers, and good execution by the Mooks, who hustled the line of scrimmage, which got LaGrande a little bit excited about the whole thing, and then pulled him off sides with the hard snap count.
Oh yeah, that was totally set up prematurely before that last play. The whole team hustled to the line of scrimmage. They all knew there was no play going on.
3 receivers to the left side, empty backfield, 2 receivers to the right. Hoskins now going to send motion. He'll hand on the fly sweep, trying to get to the outside. Cuts up inside, going to get a couple yards is all that time as Werner was on the carry out of the slot position. Short gain on the play as the Cheesemakers have thrown the ball twice on this drive. Incomplete on one, screen pass on the other. They get a short gain, only a yard on that one, but Tillamook maintains possession. 2nd down and 9 in LaGrande territory at the 44 with no score in the game. Hoskins looks over to the sidelines. Now he has the play. Going back to throw. Looks down the field. Heavy pressure. Throws it down to Hurleman. Sideline right. Overthrows him by about a yard. He was open. He beat his man by about a step and a half down the right sidelines, but could not connect on that with the wind. It's as hard to throw with the wind as it is against the wind when you're throwing long. And the Cheesemakers do not complete the pass. They may be in a 4-down situation here, and they're facing a 3rd and 9. So if you're looking at this as something that we need to get in 2 plays, this play call may be vastly different than if you think you have to get it all right now.
And in the spot they're at on the field right now, I think this is 4-down territory, most likely.
In LaGrande territory at the 43-yard line. Hoskins has Werner next to him in the backfield. He's going to look to run straight up the middle. Too many people there, and he fumbled the ball. It's laying on the ground. I don't know. I think the Cheesemakers landed on it. It was just laying right there in the middle of the bear, and getting off the bottom of the pile for the Cheesemakers with the ball is Landon Simmons.
Yeah.
So now you're on 4th and 12, and that may change your idea of whether or not you're in 4-down situation. It does. They're going to bring the punt team on. And so it'll be Zion Hurleman, who at this point in the field you could really stand to kick the ball away from the deep back, who is not really very deep.
Yeah, and Zian's been doing a good job this year when we're in this spot of just kicking it out of bounds and putting them in tough field position.
They get set. Good snap. Hurleman will kick it away. It's going to be fielded by Show, the same guy that had the big return last time. He comes near side, gets to the sideline, going to get drugged down, and out of bounds he goes at about the 29-yard line. Good pursuit that time by McKibben. So with 6:50 left to play in the first period, the Cheesemakers now go on defense for the second time as both offenses have shown that they can move the ball.
Yeah.
Defenses have shown that they're not going to give up things easily, and we're still at a stalemate at 0-0 here in the state semifinals in the first period with 6:50 left to play. LaGrande had a lot of success on the ground on their first possession until they fumbled it away.
Yeah, all 3 of their plays on their first possession, they won the line of scrimmage, so let's see if we can change that here.
Williams in the shotgun set, going to hand off to Fields, running the left side. He gets cut down at the line of scrimmage. Sam Diaz got a hand on him there. He's going to pick up the 4 on the play, and that's usually an indication of who's winning the line of scrimmage when a play like that looks like it didn't get much actually got 4 or 5 yards.
Yeah.
So no penetration by the Cheesemakers. Tillamook also showed that penetration was a problem on the other side. LaGrande really likes to send a lot of people. A lot of times when you run a 4-4 defense, that's what you do out of it, is stunt. It'll be 2nd down and 6, LaGrande. Ball at their own 33. Quarterback's going to keep it this time. Goes inside, outside, now back in again and gets wrapped up and thrown down, but he's going to be close to the first down. I think they may have gotten it. No, they're going to say it's short of the first down. It'll be 3rd down and short as the ball's marked at the 38. They've got to go to the 39, so it's short by less than a yard. And there again, the quarterback, Williams, had a lot of time to just kind of wander around back there and let his offensive line move the defensive line of the Cheesemakers.
Yeah, it was another play where it didn't look like it got much, but it actually got 5 yards.
3rd down and 1, LaGrande at their own 38. Going to send motion of Show. Show going to be thrown forward. He'll catch it and pick up the first down, and only about a yard past that is Cheesemaker defense out on the edges. Came to play there. It'll be a short game, but they didn't need much. They needed 1, they got 2, and it goes across the 40, and LaGrande keeps their drive alive. So LaGrande, very fundamental football team, well-coached football team. You don't get back to where they've been in the state playoffs. They lost in the quarterfinals last year, but the state championship a couple years before that. And they have a good host of players there on the sidelines as well that are much more used to this cold weather, I would expect. Motion cross formation, going to try to sweep outside, and that was illegal procedure. And so the illegal procedure penalty hurt the Cheesemakers, and now LaGrande has their first penalty of the night. I'd make that their second penalty of the night because they jumped off sides.
Yeah.
So the Cheesemakers marching back. It'll be 1st and 15. As LaGrande going into the wind with 4:45 left here in the first period. Working left to right across that dial that you're listening. If you're listening on a dial, you may be on a digital radio, so I guess it'd still be left to right. Shotgun set. Quarterback going to roll right, looks down the field. Oh, there is a man wide open, and it's picked off. Intercepted. Cheesemakers at the 40, at the 30. It's McKibben. It's a 25 and out of bounds. Cheesemakers are knocking at the door, and they had a man wide open down the field, completely uncovered, and he tried to go into coverage. The ball was tipped high, and the Cheesemakers get their second turnover of the ball game on the interception. They have it at the 28-yard line of LaGrande.
Yeah, and I saw what you saw. I thought, oh, no, this is going for 6. If he would have seen that receiver, I think that probably would have been a touchdown.
If he hit him at all, it would have been a touchdown because there wasn't anybody within 20 yards of the open receiver. Now the Cheesemakers need to try to get points off this turnover. Werner is in the backfield sporting the gloves. Hoskins in the quarterback. They'll turn and hand to Werner. He'll go right side, finds a little bit of hole, trips as he goes through it. He'll get down to about the 20. He picked up 3 or 4 yards on that. I would expect Tillamook to come right at LaGrande in this position.
Yeah, I would too. I mean, this is an opportunity where you need to come out with points.
Yes, you need points out of this with 3:50 left in the first period, no score in the ball game, and you know that LaGrande can put points on the board. Playing for a state championship trip on the line. Werner gets the handoff left side, tries to go wide. Got a good block, gets inside the 30 to about the 27-yard line before he's taken down there by Show. And it'll be a gain of about 3 on the play, and it'll bring up 3rd down and 5. So the Cheesemakers in a 4-down situation here as they bring McKibben up into a short slot on the left side. He'll go slide motion left to right, gets a handoff. No, it's play action. He's got a man open behind him in the slot. He tries to go to the end zone, and it's incomplete. The Cheesemakers also missed a wide open receiver.
Yeah.
The second receiver in the flood there was, I believe it was Hurleman.
Yeah.
It was, and he was wide open at the 10. Cheesemakers had a short receiver that was Moncrief, and then they had Hurleman at about 7 or 8 yards, and then they had Gunder in the end zone. He tried to go to Gunder, and it was over his head, incomplete. But, man, he was open. And now Tillamook's faced with a 4th down and 5 from the 19. One back in the backfield is Warner. Motion left to right. They're going to hand straight up the middle to Warner, and he gets nothing. Defensive line stood up and made the tackle. He got maybe a yard is all, but the Cheesemakers turn it over on downs.
And Moncrief going in motion in the backfield there, that was set up for a fake handoff going to a speed option, and that was pretty open. So if one of the coaches on the sideline saw that, I'm sure they'll go back to that play later in this game.
There's timeout on the field, 0-0, 2:57 left to play. We'll be back in 1 minute, 15 seconds. Welcome back as play in quickly. Pass over the middle, picked off by Maciel, and he returns it down the left sidelines inside the 10 to the 5, and the Cheesemakers get their 3rd turnover of the night and as many possessions on a ball that was thrown too high. Tipped off the hands, and Maciel with the interception, the 2nd interception in a row, and the Cheesemakers knocking at the door at the 6. What a play by the Cheesemaker defense. 2:50 left to play in the first period. 2 backs in the backfield this time. Hand up, straight ahead. Warner at the 5, at the 2. He gets close. Touchdown, Cheesemakers! Tillamook leads in the state semifinal game as they punch it in after the interception, and the Cheesemakers are up 6-0 with 2:44 left to play on the run by Warner. The Cheesemaker defense has been the story so far as they have set the Cheesemaker offense up. Tillamook in to attempt the extra point. These will be big in a close game tonight. Ball's down, kicks up, looks good. It is, and the Cheesemakers lead 7-0 with 2:44 left to play in the first. We'll be back in 1 minute. Welcome back to Cheesemaker football. State semifinal action. Have to have a holder come up because the ball just blew off the tee. It's blowing right to left, and that's how Tillamook's going to kick it. As they kick it long, it's going to go to Show again. Show has it bounce up around. It kicks behind him all the way back into the end zone, and that's a touchback. That's too bad that it actually got into the end zone because the Cheesemakers were going to be pinning them deep. But anytime in high school when the ball crosses the end zone, even after a muff, it's dead on the kickoff. And so at the 20-yard line, it'll be a LaGrande ball. And, Matt, that wasn't much of a scoring drive, one play by Warner. But one thing you did mention at the last break, LaGrande has 3 turnovers, and they've all been a result of the quarterback.
Yep. Three possessions and 3 turnovers by the quarterback.
So LaGrande gets the ball back. They'll set up with Williams at quarterback. He sends Show across the formation, hand up into the middle of the line, and Sam Diaz says, "Not this time, son," as it's going to be a loss of 1 on the play, takes him down at the 19. They'll learn quickly that Sam covers about 3 holes in there, and you probably just shouldn't run in those 3.
Yeah, no, you can't. If you get in Sam Diaz's his grip, he's not going to let you go. He will not. He doesn't really ever miss tackles at all.
Nope. He's got great hands, his wingspan, and then his belly fills in the rest, and he's tough in there. Second down and 11. Williams, shotgun, going to keep it himself. There's a flag down on the far side. Williams going to go ahead for about 6 yards on the carry, but the flag, hard telling what that one is, either formation or lined up in the neutral zone. And it'll be illegal procedure. So LaGrande has had a less than stellar start to this thing. They, as you look at showing nerves when you get into the state semis, I'd say they've shown nerves here so far tonight.
Yeah, this doesn't seem typical of the LaGrande team. I mean, their offense has been putting up a lot of points all season, and all of a sudden they have 3 possessions and 3 turnovers.
Yeah, they're averaging, 36 points a game on the year, and they've got 1:30 left in the first quarter and have yet to dent the board yet. Obviously, they can do it from anywhere, and they could do it from here, 95 or 85 yards away. And there's flags again.
Jeez.
And that's delay a game. Wow, they are just stuck in reverse right now, and the natives from LaGrande that made the trip over here about 3.5 hours are getting a little restless down there. It is first down again, but it's 1st and 21. Ball back to the 9-yard line. Williams sends somebody in motion. Gets it off the right tackle, wrapped up, thrown down at about the 12. Carrying the ball that time, number 16, Collins, on the rush. He came from a slot on the far side. Tillamook's happy to give up 4 or 5 yards each of these downs and have LaGrande have to punt the ball into the wind. Under a minute left to play in the first period, 7-0. Tillamook with a lead here in the state semifinals. Shotgun set, 3 receivers, 2 to the right side and 1 to the left. They have a tight end as well on that left side. Quarterback going to look back to throw. Throws over the middle. Oh, it should have been intercepted. That would have been 3 throws and 3 interceptions. It hit Whitlatch right in the numbers. I don't know what Williams was looking at.
I don't either.
Because there was nobody there. And he was just looking to get rid of the ball, and, I mean, he hit Whitlatch right in the numbers at the 13-yard line.
Yeah, he had a tight end coming across the middle from the backside, and he didn't even see Whitlatch. Whitlatch didn't even move.
Didn't move. And now LaGrande will punt with a punter standing at their own 1. Gets a high snap, goes up and gets it, and kicks it away. It's going to be a short punt that kicks and rolls at the 37-yard line of LaGrande, and the Cheesemakers, with 27 seconds left in the first period, will have fantastic field position for the 3rd time in this ball game.
Yeah, this is going to be another possession where it's super important to try to get some points on the board. Going up by 2 scores in a semifinal game with a defense like Tillamook has would be huge for us.
That would be huge for sure. They'll move the chains and get it set as Tillamook has 27 seconds left to go with the wind. And they have a 7-0 lead. There's been 4 possessions by the Cheesemakers in this ball game, and they have started in LaGrande territory 3 of those. Holding the ball, waiting for the chains to get set. Now Tillamook has it, moving right to left. They're going to go split backs in the backfield with 27 seconds left in the period. Cheesemakers come up. They'll go straight ahead. No, going to keep it outside. It's Hoskins. Hoskins going to dive ahead inside the 35 to about the 30. He went right. He broke a tackle about the 35. He is going to pick up about 7 yards on the play. Haven't seen him keep the ball a lot lately. They'll run it again, this time to Werner. Werner runs over the free safety straight up the middle, inside the 25, down to about the 22. That'll be a first down, and that's the end of the quarter. It was a great first quarter by the Cheesemakers, who lead 7-0 here in the semis over LaGrande. We'll be back in just 1 minute. Welcome back to Cheesemaker Football. Randy Sheila along with Matt Strang, your broadcast crew. This OSAA On Point Credit Union State Football Championship action. Tillamook to open up the second quarter with the ball at the 22 of LaGrande. They're going to hand left to Werner. He gets caught in the backfield. He's going to get back to the line of scrimmage, maybe +1. But pursuit from a stunning linebacker got a good hand on him. It'll be a short gain on the play. Tillamook comes right to the line of scrimmage without a huddle again. They have 1 first down on this drive after the short punt. Whitlatch goes out as Werner stays in. He's been, again, the main ball carrier for the Cheesemakers. We'll see if the Cheesemakers try to keep running the ball or if they throw. A lot of guys at the line of scrimmage for LaGrande. They'll turn and hand to Werner into a pile there. Nothing doing. Got maybe a yard, and that's it. And the Cheesemakers, with as hard as LaGrande's coming, they're going to have to do something that gives misdirection, tries to get outside, that gets those linebackers that are flowing so hard to go the wrong way.
Oh, with that look right there, I wouldn't be surprised if Kai went to a similar formation under center and went play action. Because if they did it right there, Tanner would have had plenty of time.
Yep. They're throwing into the wind, although it's not a wind like we saw against Scappoose or even the next week against Woodburn. Back to throw. Looking right side, throws to Werner. Werner got to break a tackle or two. He's at the 20. He's got some room at the 15. At the 10, he's going to get enough for the first down. It didn't look like he had anything. He weaved left, he weaved right, and pretty soon he found a little bit of a slot, and the Cheesemakers roll the chains on 3rd and long, and it's 1st and goal. Well, it'll be 1st and 10 from the 11. Nice run by Judah Werner. They ran a screen look, a bubble screen left to Hurleman, but ignored him and threw it right to Werner, and the Cheesemakers get the big first down on the 3rd and long. Knocking at the door with a 7-0 lead already are the Cheesemakers. Hoskins going to throw left. He goes to Hurleman, caught at the 10, trying to get to the outside. At the 8, he goes inside the 8 down to about the 6-yard line. Going to pick up 6 on the quick throw from Hoskins out to Zion Hurleman. It'll be ball at the 6-yard line, 2nd down and 5, I believe. They haven't moved the marker yet, and there they do. It'll be 2nd and 5 by the Cheesemakers at the 6, 2 backs in the backfield. High snap, but handed off to Werner left side. Breaks tackle at the 5, running for the corner, reaches. Touchdown, Cheesemakers! Clear down in the far left corner. The Cheesemakers take a 2-score lead over LaGrande. They're up 13-0 with 9:49 left to play in the first half. The LaGrande fans are shocked. They're the number 2 ranked team in the state, and the Cheesemakers just marched it down the short field, 37 yards in 6 plays. Make that 7 plays, and they stuff it in. And now they attempt the extra point. Good snap, hold, kicks up, and it is good, but there's a flag down. We'll see. Both teams are going off the field, and it is a sideline warning against LaGrande. So the Cheesemakers have scored twice. They lead 14-0. 9:49 left to play in the first half. We'll keep this one right here as we have some OSAA spots to get in. Dear style, efficiency, and performance. Glad we're on the same team this season and every season. Let's keep huddling up and going for it. Toyota, let's go places. OSAA Today is your spot for all high school state championship coverage, from news, stories, coaches' polls, and more. Get it all by visiting OSAA Today. Go to osaa.org/today. Today. Well, Matt, I have to say I'm a little bit surprised how this one has unfolded, and we've got a long ways to go, but Werner's 6-yard touchdown there was a big step in the right direction for sure.
Right, and it's been all Werner so far. He's got 11 rushes. The only other person that's ran the ball is Hoskins, and also Judah has. We have 3 completed passes, and 2 of them are to Judah.
Kickoff, a short wobbler, goes in fielded at the 39-yard line. I'm not sure if that was intended to be an onside kick. It actually hit somebody in the front row and bounced up. But either way, LaGrande will have good field position. Now they'll be going with the wind, and we'll see how the game flips in this case, as see if they can throw the ball a little more effectively. Which won't take much because they have not been effective yet. Their only receptions have been to the Cheesemakers.
They have 1 reception, but it was just on a little
flip
to the motion guy. So,
shotgun set, back to throw. Looking left, throws, has a man wide open, complete across midfield. At the 40, down inside the 40 to the 34-yard line, and that is Show on the big pass reception. So going with the win, Logan Williams throws his first ball downfield for a completion, and now LaGrande comes out with no huddle, going right to the ball, trying to get things moving as Tillamook leads 14-0. Williams going to roll right this time. Not much pressure on. He hangs it down the right sidelines into the corner, and it is incomplete. Good look there, going for Show again. Show has been the go-to guy. He is a return specialist, and he's been the guy they've looked for down the field. Cheesemakers going to have to do something to put some pressure on Williams, though, because Williams certainly had all day to stand back there and throw the ball. in that possession.
And Williams hasn't been making the best decisions so far, but he's had receivers open a lot.
A lot.
We're going to have to touch up on our secondary work here.
Ball at the Tillamook 34. Cheesemakers show blitz on this one. As Williams going to hand off to the back coming off the left side. Gets a hole inside the 30 to the 25. Carrying the ball is Fields, and he's going to pick up enough for the first down plus a few. He'll pick up 13 on the carry. So Fields running off left tackle in that little seam that the Cheesemakers seem to have a little bit of a hole defensively. Maciel comes back into the ball game. First down, LaGrande. LaGrande with the ball at the 21 of the Cheesemakers. Going to hand to Fields going the other way. Power sweep, pulling people. He's going to dive inside to the 20-yard line. They pulled guard, maybe both guards on that. They put a lot of people through the hole, and the way you stop that defensively is you submarine it. You've got to shoot at the legs of the pulling guards, create a pile there so the running backs don't have the room to run. It's gain of 2 on the play, second down and 8. Cheesemakers trying to hang on to a 14-point lead, 14-0, 8:18 left to play in the half. Cheesemakers bring up the linebacker, showing blitz. Look left, finally flip it out into the flats. That was well covered, and they're probably lucky that it was overthrown and incomplete.
Yeah, if he would have caught that, he might have been in some trouble.
Yeah, Judah Werner was head hunting him down, and now it's third down. Oh, there's a penalty flag apparently, and it's going to had to be holding. I missed the signal.
Yeah, I didn't see that either.
And so going to be a holding penalty that marches it back to the 34. That's a big penalty for the Cheesemakers as LaGrande makes another mistake. And now they'll be faced with second down again, but it's going to be 2nd and 20. 3 receivers to the far side. Tight end on the near side. Quarterback going to roll right to throw. Looks into the flat. Man wide open, he overthrew him. He was going to get about 10 or 12, but Collins was out there all alone, and he launched it into the Cheesemakers sidelines. Incomplete.
Yeah, and Williams didn't set his feet there on the throw, even though he didn't have any pressure in his face. He still decided to throw that on the run. Looks like he's got some playoff jitters going.
Yeah, a little happy feet going right there, and LaGrande wants timeout. We better keep this one right here on a 3rd and 20 for LaGrande at the Tillamook 34-yard line. Stay connected to your favorite team with the OSAA Live mobile app. OSAA Live features the latest scores, schedules, and rankings for all teams and leagues across Oregon. Access Oregon State Championship programs. Read the latest prep news and information. Search OSAA Live in the App Store or on Google Play to download today. So the Cheesemakers lead 14-0 with 8 minutes left in the first half, and getting a stop here before here in the middle of the second quarter would be huge for Tillamook, because it looked like LaGrande was just going to march the football right down the field after they got it back, like they'd kind of gotten everything back in order. And then that holding penalty hurt him. We'll see if the Cheesemakers can get a stop. LaGrande is, I would expect, in 4-down situation at Tillamook 34. 1 receiver on the top of your screen, 1 on the bottom. Quarterback going to roll right and look. He's got some pressure. Boyd throws it down the right side. It is incomplete, knocked away.
Great coverage.
Was that Maciel? Looks like it was Maciel down there from the body style. He waited, and then punched it away, and it looks like LaGrande's going to punt the ball away. So that surprises me a little bit, but they're going to play some field possession here as the clock stopped, just under 8 minutes left to play in the half. Tillamook leads 14-0, trying to be only the second team in the history of Tillamook football to go to the state finals. Tillamook had a shot at blocking the last one. They'll put guys up at the line of scrimmage. Gets a snap. They don't put a rush on this time. It's a wobbler, fielded and caught by Gunder at the 7-yard line.
That's Maciel.
Maciel with the catch. And so it'll be at the 9-yard line. That's where the Cheesemakers will take over. And it will be 7:51 left to play in the second period as Tillamook will get the ball and see if they can make something happen going into the wind here on a brisk, with a capital B, brisk. Wind chill in the low 20s now. But the Cheesemakers do not feel it at all because they're so excited about a 14-0 lead. They go split backs in the backfield. Shotgun snap's going to hand off. No, it's going to be Hoskins who gets thrown around. He stays alive, swung back to the goal line, and now he runs for the sideline. He gets back up to about the 9, which was the line of scrimmage, and he's lucky to get that. He faked it to Werner and then kept it himself. He got caught in the backfield, spun all the way around. He found himself running towards the wrong end zone. Fortunately, he's fast enough to recover, and it'll be no gain on the play. 2nd down and 10. Going to be tough to throw into this, although Tillamook threw short patterns on their last possession at the start of the second quarter. They go up under center, send Moncrief in motion. They'll hand left to Werner. Werner cuts back against the grain, going to get up to about the 14-yard line. He's taken down there by the quarterback, Williams, who stepped up and made the tackle, playing a linebacker position as well. Williams is not big, but he's very athletic, very quick. He has had a first half that he'd like to forget most of, though, on the offensive side. Tillamook with a gain of 4, long 3. We'll call it 3rd down and 7. Play called in from the sidelines. Everybody looks at their wristbands. And whistles blow, and it's timeout. Timeout, Tillamook. We'll take it as well. 7:02 left to play. In the half, 14-0. Tillamook back in 1 minute. Welcome back, Cheesemaker football. 3rd down and 7. They fake the handoff, throw to the outside, trying to get to the edge. Not much going there. Is wrapped up and thrown down back at the 6-yard line, and the cowbells of the Tigers come out. Figure that out. Tillamook, that's usually their theme, but LaGrande with a good crowd on this side of the field. Tillamook with a great crowd on the far side of the field. Now faced with 4th down at their own 9-yard line going into the wind. And there's that same kid, Show, the tough returner, back standing at the Tillamook 35. Perleman in his own end zone. High snap. Can he get it away? No, he can't. It's blocked and recovered at the 8-yard line as Hurleman tried to get it away, but a high snap made him go up to get it. He did a nice job getting there, but the turnover by the Cheesemakers now sets up something very, very short for LaGrande.
Yeah, it's good to see Zian getting up and jogging off the field. That was a hard hit that he just took.
So with 6:17 left to play in the first half, ball at the 7-yard line of Tillamook. LaGrande comes to the line of scrimmage. Long wait, long snap count. Now they'll hand it to Fields. Fields goes right side behind a host of blockers. It's kind of student body right as he goes inside the 5 down to about the 3, maybe the 2. They'll mark it at the 2. It'll be 2nd and goal from there. The LaGrande fans now making a lot of noise down below us as they try to get into the end zone for the first time halfway through this second period of play. Boy, LaGrande has pulled their offensive line continually, and the Cheesemakers are having a hard time getting all the bodies stopped. 2nd and goal from the 2. Williams going to carry it himself straight up the middle into the end zone for the score. So LaGrande gets on the board with a touchdown on the 2-yard run by Williams. And Williams, night just got a whole lot happier than what it had been so far as they try to kick the extra point and make this a 1-score game. 5:31 left to play in the half. They're lined up. Low snap, but it's collected nicely by Williams and kicked through, and it is good. It's 14-7. Cheesemakers by 7 with 5:31 left to play in the half. We'll be back in 1 minute. Welcome back to Cheesemaker football as LaGrande gets ready to kick off. That short field after the block punt made the 7-yard drive a two-play drive, and now they kick it off. Low-line drive going to be fielded, picked up. No, not picked up. Rolls all the way to the end zone, kicking with the wind, and the Cheesemakers will have the ball at their own 20-yard line with 5:31 left to play here in the first half.
Now, this is a big possession for the Cheesemakers. It'd be nice to be able to run some time off the clock here, drive the ball down the field, and punch in a score right before the half, and then get the ball back.
Yeah, you're going to need to be able to find something offensively that you can do consistently, or you need a big play, one of the two. Tillamook's had some big plays already. They haven't necessarily been that long of plays, but some big situational plays for sure.
Yeah.
One back in the backfield, Hoskins. Oh, almost thought they got somebody to jump, but they hand off back there, and right into the pile goes Warner, and he gets nothing. As the defensive line of LaGrande is starting to exert its will against the offensive line of the Cheesemakers.
Yeah, there was nowhere for Judah to go there.
Nowhere. No gain on the play. He was lucky. Oh, no, they're going to move it back now a yard, so it's going to be a loss of 1 on the play. It'll be second down and 11, and so first down on the last 2 possessions has gone the wrong way. As they'll set up now to throw. Looks left, throws into the flats. It is incomplete. Hurleman was right at the first down mark with a dive, but it was a little bit short or a little bit wide. Couldn't tell. It's right in front of the Cheesemakers bench on the far side. And now Tillamook looking very closely at a 3-and-out and happened to be in a punt situation again into the wind, which is what got to this, led to LaGrande's first score. The stands are moving as the Tiger fans chant. Going to look right, roll right. Now look left. Going to keep it. Hoskins up the middle. He's got to beat the far side. He does. At the 30, at the 35, and 40 and out of bounds. Hoskins did it all on his own there as he rolled right and then broke it off left.
Flag down.
And there's a flag cleared down the field.
On the other side of the field. Opposite sideline of where the play went.
Yeah. And it's going to be against LaGrande. I don't know what it is, but it's going to tack it on. There's been no signal at another sideline.
Yeah, I was going to say the spot where the flag is, it's probably another sideline.
So it is another sideline warning, but either way, the Cheesemakers get themselves out of a hole, and how big was that?
Yeah, that was, we really needed that. We didn't want to punt from our own end zone again.
Going to run left? No. Hand back to Warner on the draw up the middle. Into a pile he goes. Nothing doing there. Oh, those defensive linemen are tough on the inside for LaGrande. As off the bottom of that pile was Jacob Sunderman for the second time. No gain on the play. It'll be second down and 10. Oh, they pick the chains and move it around. They're going to say it's a gain of a yard. Second down and 9 for the Cheesemakers. At the LaGrande, though, at their own 44-yard line. 4 minutes left to play in the first half. Hoskins looks right, now looks left, takes the snap. Back, under pressure, going to run left. Now he's going to have to run forward, and he's going to pick up about 3 as he carries it. Didn't have much time there, as, again, the defensive line is winning the battle right now. It's going to be third down and 7 going into the wind for the Cheesemakers.
And that's something that Hoskins is going to have to do tonight to win this game. He's going to have to create some plays with his legs.
Yeah, going to have to, and he already did, to flip this field a little bit. Third down and 7 again. They'll hand to Warner, left side, trying to get outside. He cuts upfield. He's going to get, he's still moving, got pushed from behind. The Cheesemakers saying he got the first down. I think he did.
Wow.
They did. He got some help from behind as it looked like Warner, clear over in front of the Cheesemakers bench on the far side, was stopped about 3 yards short. I was wondering if they were going to go for it. And then all of a sudden the pile started moving, and the Cheesemakers have the first down.
I couldn't even see Judah, but the pile just moved. And then all of a sudden the ref was standing in front of the marker.
First down, Cheesemakers. Cross midfield now into LaGrande territory at the 44. They'll take the handoff inside. Oh, it's fumbled. And Cheesemakers get back on it. Warner dropped it. It fell right between he and Tanner Hoskins, and you could see the hands of Werner just reach back and grab it just before the LaGrande defensive line fell on it. It will be a loss of 3, but I'll take that compared to giving the ball back on the turnover to LaGrande right there. State semifinal action, Tillamook 14, LaGrande 7, 2:15 left to play in the first half. Second down and 13, Cheesemakers. Tillamook sets up, takes a snap. Going to throw it right side to Hurleman. They missed a block. He breaks a tackle, and then he's going to go down. It's going to be a loss of 3 again. Missed block on the first guy. That wrapped up Hurleman. And then the rest came to help. And so all of a sudden now you have 3rd and 15. Ball right near midfield. Cheesemaker's a little frustrated as well, as Hurleman didn't get the time he was hoping to get on that quick screen.
Yeah, I think we're going to have to get Hoskins outside of the pocket here, get him moving, see a good route combination here, like a flood like before we had that open receiver.
Cheesemakers with 1:20 left. Going to go back to throw. Hoskins throws it left side, incomplete. It was right between 2 receivers. He actually had Hurleman, but it was overthrown, and it'll bring up 4th down for Tillamook. Now with 1:14 left, you're going to have to punt the ball away. The high snap and the bad block punt is what led to the only score that LaGrande has. And now Tillamook is going to ask for timeout. We'll take it as well. 1:14 left in the half, 14-7 Tillamook, back in 1 minute. Welcome back as Cheesemakers play back in quickly. They do get the punt off. It's not long. It goes just inside the 30 and rolls dead there. And so with 1:05 left to play, LaGrande is going to get the ball back. I believe they have 1 timeout remaining. Can't quite see on the board what that is, but I think that's the case. And they will take the ball at their own 29-yard line with that 1:05 left to play. Cheesemakers up 14-7 by way of 3 turnovers. First 3 possessions of the ball game for LaGrande. A fumble and then 2 interceptions. Cheesemakers ended up with a 14-0 lead, but they're hanging on to a 14-7 lead now, and they're going to hand it to Fields on the outside. He's going to push his way ahead for about 5 or 6 yards. And so LaGrande is going to do what they can not to make a mistake here before the end of the first half. They have a player down. Oh, that is a key player for them. He's going to get himself up and heading off. It's one of their linemen. It'll be Jared Armstrong, also a defensive stud in the middle.
That might have been to stop the clock.
And so with 50 seconds left, they should wind the clock now since he's off the field, and there's the clock winding with 49 seconds left. Second down and 5. Got to play deep, free safety here. Looks like Werner's the free safety for the Cheesemakers. Back to throw goes Williams. Williams looks left, in trouble. He's going to roll, and now he's going to run. Out across the 30, running for the sidelines and out of bounds at the 39-yard line. It'll be maybe enough for the first down. It's right at the marker, although the marker's on the other side. They're going to say it is a first down. And LaGrande, now with 31 seconds left, they do have a good field goal kicker, but they've got a ways to go in order to get into field goal position with the ball at their own 40-yard line. They'll set up. Cheesemakers need to give ground defensively. Williams flips it ahead to Show. Show not going to get much there as he gets up to the 44-yard line. And we'll see if LaGrande tries to hustle and run a play. They will. And now LaGrande's going to want timeout. We'll keep this timeout right here. Want to stay in shape, be involved in sports you love, and earn money in the process? Become an athletic official. There's shortage of officials in Oregon, and we need you now more than ever. Visit osaa.org/officials for more information and to get registered. Cheesemakers trying to get a stop here before halftime with 18 seconds left, and LaGrande has used their final timeout. Tillamook has 1 timeout remaining. LaGrande going with the win. Tillamook will get the ball to open up the second half. And Cheesemakers hanging on to a 14-7 lead right now over LaGrande. And at this point, I don't think there's an obvious choice for who the better team is. I think the defensive line of LaGrande has won the battle. I'd say the skill people of Tillamook have been better so far.
Yeah, and the turnovers from LaGrande have really been what's given the Cheesemakers the lead here.
2nd down and 7. Quarterback going to run it himself. Goes right side, stutter drive. Now he's going to go all the way out to the edge. Runs out of bounds. Cheesemakers got a piece of him with 11 seconds left. He's going to be short of the first down marker, but he did get out of bounds up at the 48. Cheesemakers playing a bend but don't break defense. If you tackle them inbounds short of a first down, they will not, probably even now with a first down, they probably couldn't get another play off. You would expect the ball to be in the air here and down the field with 11 seconds left and the wind at your back. Cheesemakers need to remember that a pass interference penalty is not the end of the world here. Better than getting beat deep. They throw it into the flat. Show, nice stop by McKibben, who hit Show immediately as he had the ball in his hands at the 30-yard line on a nice throw, but a great play by McKibben. The Cheesemakers have LaGrande into a 4th down situation with 5 seconds left in the half, ball at their own 48-yard line.
Yeah, that was perfect coverage by McKibben there. He's the safety, so he's a deep man. Don't let anyone deeper than you, and that's exactly what he did. He came across the field and hit Show as soon as the ball got there.
Really well-thrown ball there. So now, even if a ball's caught in front of you, you just keep them out of the end zone, and you're going to the halftime locker room with a lead. Back to throw again. Plenty of time. He's going to heave it down the field right side, and it is incomplete. And that will be the end of the first half of play. That was an entertaining half of football.
That was.
Cheesemakers lead 14-7 in the state semifinal game here at Barlow High School over to LaGrande Tigers. We're going to take a 1-minute break. We'll be back after this. Welcome back to Cheesemaker Football. It's halftime with the Cheesemakers lead 14-7 over LaGrande here, and this would be a huge upset. The number 2 ranked team in the state, the LaGrande Tigers. Everybody expected them to roll through the Cheesemakers and on into the state championship game. They're favored to win the state championship now that Scappoose knocked off number 1 Mazama last week. Scappoose and Estacada play tonight over, in fact, I think it started half an hour after us, but they play at Hillsboro Stadium. So that should be a great ball game. I think Estacada is probably the strongest team standing, although LaGrande on paper looked every bit as good. The Cheesemakers have played even up with LaGrande so far in this first half. LaGrande has won the battle at the line of scrimmage. Cheesemakers have won the turnover battle, and a lot of times if you win the turnover battle, you can win the ball game. If you joined us late, LaGrande took the opening possession. They marched it right down the field. They got to the Tillamook 30, and then their quarterback, Logan Williams, on a run, fumbled the ball. Going by, got stripped, ball popped out. Cheesemakers came up with it and got the ball back. Cheesemakers didn't go far on that, but they were able to move the ball some, and then after 7 plays, they punted the ball away. LaGrande got it again. They turned around, tried to find a man open, or they missed a man who was wide open down the field on the pass, tried to go to a short man. It was picked off by McKibben. The Cheesemakers returned that to the 28-yard line of LaGrande. They had first down from there, and it looked like they were in business, but they went 4 and out as Cheesemakers turned it over on downs shortly after that. LaGrande got it back. They had it at their own 29-yard line, and 2 plays later tried to throw the ball and picked off. No, that was the first play from scrimmage from there. Tried to throw it. It was picked off by Maciel. Maciel ran it back to the 6-yard line. The Cheesemakers, the next play, handed it to Werner, and Werner ran it in from the 6, and the Cheesemakers took the lead 7-0. After the kickoff, the Tigers had to punt it away. The Cheesemakers got it after a short punt into the wind at the LaGrande 37, and Tillamook went 7 plays in 37 yards. They ran it in from 6 yards out by Werner. Again, his second touchdown of the night, and the Cheesemakers, with the extra point, took a 14-0 lead over LaGrande. And then LaGrande answered late, halfway through the second period, when the Cheesemakers were punting out of their own end zone, got a high snap, and Zion Hurleman went up, got it, came down, but by then the sieve had opened up, and there were 2 or 3 guys right there. It was blocked. It was recovered by LaGrande at the 7-yard line, and 2 plays later and 45 seconds of clock time, they stuffed it into the end zone with Williams on a 2-yard run. They added the extra point, and that's where we are at halftime, 14-7. LaGrande with a lead, LaGrande trailing the Tillamook Cheesemakers in the state semifinals with a trip to the state championship game next weekend on the line. Matt's going to work on the stats. We're going to have those and more here at the half after this 1-minute break for our sponsors. Welcome back to Cheesemaker Football. It's halftime with the Cheesemakers lead 14-7 over LaGrande. Randy Seal along with Matt Strang, your broadcast crew over FM 95.9 KTIL in Tillamook. This is on OSAA On Point Credit Union. State Championship semifinal action. Purchase your official state championship merchandise at OSAAstore.com with Rush Team Apparel, the exclusive merchandise partner of the OSAA. You have more options. Customize your gear with your school name, a student-athlete name, event decals, and more. Nike products are also available. Browse the selection of official state championship merchandise at OSAAstore.com. The Cheesemakers lead 14-7. That was a good first half of football, Matt.
Yeah, that was an exciting first half of football. I would like to, with them having 3 turnovers and us having none, it'd be nice to have bigger than a 1-score lead.
Correct.
But going into halftime with the lead, can't be upset about that.
I came into this game thinking that there was a real possibility that LaGrande just could manhandle us like they have so many teams. They beat Cascade in the first round of the playoffs like 42-14 or something.
Right.
I thought that was a possibility.
And it's really hard to say because we don't know when they're so far over on the east side of Oregon. We don't know much about them.
And yet, what we've seen in the first half is Tillamook belongs here.
Oh, yeah.
And I think there were some that were wondering, the 6th-ranked team in the state and the state semifinals, and who have you played and what have you done? Well, there's 2 Co-op League teams in the last 4. And Scappoose and Tillamook are 2 pretty darn good teams.
Yeah.
And Cheesemakers have every chance to win this ball game and move into the state championship game as LaGrande does. What do you see in the first half stats?
Yeah, first half, Cheesemakers are, again, rushing the ball well. We've rushed the ball 19 times for 95 yards, and 61 of those are Judah Warner. And one thing that's a little bit different about this game than we've seen in recent games is usually we have a plethora of different players running the ball, but tonight we just have Warner and Hoskins, the only 2 that have rushed the ball tonight for us.
I do think Tillamook's going to have to come off of Warner with something, slot reverse, something that is a misdirection because they're sending so many people right at him.
Yeah, they're keying on Warner, and he's still averaging 4 yards a carry. He's just been so awesome this year. And also Warner has our 2 touchdowns. And Tanner Hoskins, he's on passing. He's 4 for 9 for 18 yards. And team total yards is 113. So haven't really had to throw the ball much. And on the times we have, we've been pretty effective with the short game. We haven't completed any deep passes, but we're completing short passes and getting some yards after the catch. LaGrande at the half has 14 carries for 71 yards. Those are almost all going to Fields. Fields is a strong running back. He's gaining yards. Even when Cheesemakers get penetration and get in the backfield, he's fighting for 1 or 2 yards, similar to our running backs. Quarterback Williams is 2 for 11 for 26 yards, which is awesome because he's been their workhorse all year. He's been their best player. So holding them to 2 for 11 is and 2 picks.
Yeah, he did not throw the ball into the wind well at all.
No.
He threw the ball with the wind pretty well, and that's where they were in the second period there. And so that'll be an interesting decision as they come out in the second half, as Cheesemakers are going to receive as to what LaGrande chooses to do. Will they kick the ball with the wind? That's what I expect, but that means the Cheesemakers will have the wind at their back and going towards the scoreboard in the final period. And that also is something that you would like to have as well. So total yards for the two teams, fairly close.
Yeah. Cheesemakers 113 total yards to LaGrande's 97, so it's pretty close so far.
And a good defensive battle. I mean, this obviously the best defense we've seen. Scappoose was a good defense.
Yeah.
LaGrande is winning the line of scrimmage more so than Scappoose did. We were every bit as good as Scappoose in the line. LaGrande is better.
Yeah,
and
I agree.
When somebody's better in the line of scrimmage, then you need to adjust, and Tillamook will do that, and that's part of what you have halftime for, is to go make changes, make adjustments, come out. But that's also what LaGrande's going to do, and I think their coaches are going to go in and say, wait a minute, we literally just handed them everything they have.
Yeah.
We gave them 3 turnovers, and we're only down a touchdown. We're perfectly fine.
Yeah, I'm sure they're not, with circumstances that happen on their first 3 possessions, I'm sure they're not too upset about the score right now.
No, down 14-7, and the last full possession they had, they scored on, although it was a very short possession at 7-yard line.
Yeah.
But it certainly is a game that is anybody's ball game, and the Cheesemakers with a 14-7 advantage right now are up in the state semis. As we head to another break, we'll be back after this minute and 15-second break for our sponsors. Welcome back to Cheesemaker Football. It's halftime where the Cheesemakers lead 14-7 over the LaGrande Tigers, the number 2 ranked team in the state, here at Barlow High School in Gresham, as the Cheesemakers have traveled out to the east side to watch the east wind blow. You thought it was blowing in town? Nah, it's colder and even more wind out here. They say this is way better than last night. It was blowing about 50 last night during the ball game. But tonight, when we pulled in, it was a 22-mile-an-hour wind, and it was 37 degrees. And so the wind chill was figured, at least on the phone, at about 24 degrees at game time. And I was down on the field. You could hear, if you heard the interview of Kai before the game, you could hear the wind howling through. The good news is it's dry. And as I talked to Kai, it's probably the best weather we played in a couple weeks after that horrendous, nasty storm in the Woodburn game. And then, of course, not a great night with Gladstone the following week. And I'd say that Scappoose the week before wasn't all that good either. And so the Cheesemakers, dry, cold, and clear, but a little bit breezy out here tonight for the state semifinal play. On Point Community Credit Union, a proud sponsor of the OSAA State Championship. On Point is Oregon's largest locally headquartered credit union, serving more than 495,000 members. Visit onpointcu.com. On Point is federally insured by the NCUA. Cheesemakers just about ready to come back onto the field as we bring players back out onto the field, and then they have 3 more minutes to get things limbered up, loosened up from the time in the locker room. And most of the time, your guys who are playing all the time, they're not cold at all. Guys on the sidelines, they are. And so they'll get their stuff taken care of in the halftime locker room, then come out and be ready for the second half. 2 times Tillamook has played in the state semifinals. In 1977, the Cheesemakers, that's back in the days when they only had 1 team from each league that went into the playoffs. Tillamook in the league championship game defeated Scappoose 14-7, and then the Cheesemakers went to Lakeview, which is about as far as you can go in Oregon and still be in Oregon. As we went to Lakeview, went down there, played, beat Lakeview, a great team, 7-3. And then earned a state semifinal game back at home against the highly ranked Cascade Cougars and beat them 28-18 to advance to the state championship game played at Parker Stadium, Corvallis, Oregon State University, Reeser Stadium now. As on a nasty, rainy, windy night, the Cheesemakers lost the state championship game to the South Umpqua Lancers, who were in the state championship game for their 3rd year in a row. They had lost the first one, tied the second one, and then they defeated the Cheesemakers in the state championship game in 1977. In 1989, the Cheesemakers, probably had their best football team ever in 1988 that got upset out in Dallas. But in 1989, they were at home in the state semis against Hood River. Hood River really talented team. It was even back and forth, muddy as could be, and on a ball that was thrown long down the left sideline and tipped off the hands of Jim Seeney into the receiver, and then subsequently into the end zone. The Cheesemakers lost that one. I believe that was 14-7, as the Cheesemakers were denied going to the state championship game this year. That's a long time ago. That's over 30 years ago, the last time Tillamook has been this far in the playoffs. And so they're making the most of it on this playoff run as they're getting ready for the start of the second half of state semifinal action, leading 14-7. We'll take a 1-minute break. We'll be back with the start of the half after this. Welcome back to Cheesemaker Football. This OSA On Point Community Credit Union State Football Semifinal action. The Cheesemakers and LaGrande Tigers. The Cheesemakers lead 14-7 as we head into the second period of play. The OSAA is going digital with Hometown Ticketing, the official ticketing partner of the OSAA. Access tickets for all first round through state championship finals via the OSAA website or OSAA Live app. Order your tickets in advance and present your digital ticket at the gate. Convenient, paperless, and easy to use. Visit osaa.org/tickets. Cheesemakers take the field, and LaGrande is going to choose to kick into the wind. That surprises me a little bit. We had that question a week ago, and Gladstone chose to kick with the wind, but they want to have the wind at their back in the final quarter.
Yeah.
I understand that.
Yeah, you want it in the fourth quarter, especially in a game like this where you know, or it's looking so far like it's going to come down to the wire.
Yeah, it certainly looks like the fourth quarter is going to be when this thing's decided, but that makes this third quarter huge for the Cheesemakers. I think you need a 2-score lead going into the final period.
I agree.
Since LaGrande is going to be going with the wind. So LaGrande will kick off left or right across your radio dial. They'll kick off into the wind. The Cheesemakers are way deeper than they need to be as they approach the ball. It's going to be a low-line drive kick. Be bounced and picked up by Gunder at the 15, out to the 20, 25, 30. Into a pile he goes, and the Cheesemakers will take it at their own 34-yard line. So we're going to see who makes the adjustments here in the halftime locker room, as the Cheesemakers will have the ball first. I would expect Tillamook will adjust something offensively.
Yeah, we got to make some adjustments here, see if we can move the ball more consistently.
We have moved the ball. We have more yards than LaGrande has. They're going to hand off to Whitlatch. First carry goes right side, and he puts his head down and gets 5 yards straight ahead. I always like how Whitlatch runs the ball. He does not waste time dancing around.
Yeah, he makes the defense really work for it, and there's something different already. That's his first carry of the game.
6 yards on the first carry, as they again have keyed Werner Stohard. They go to the shotgun set again, 2 backs in the backfield. This time it's going to be Werner. No, it's going to be Hoskins, who runs to the outside. He goes out across the 40, the 45, and out of bounds there. Going to get enough for the first down. So the Cheesemakers, you're right, have adjusted already, like they set up in the first half, what they're going to do in the second half, and the Cheesemakers go back-to-back different runs.
Yeah,
and pick up first down.
And another thing that's different here is the 2-back set. We haven't seen all that much this year, but in this game we've seen it quite a bit.
Going to be Whitlatch again. Whitlatch wades through, got a hold up across the 45, 40, carries people down to the 39. Gilbert Whitlatch for 13 yards on a tough run again by the senior. Cheesemakers go run, and now they come to the line quickly.
Yeah, and the thing about handing it to a guy like Whitlatch is it's really going to make the defense tired.
They'll hand off this time to Werner. Werner cuts it outside, cuts it back inside. Oh, he had one step, and he could have had some big yards if he's pulled down at the 35 after a gain of 4 on the play. The Cheesemakers have changed some things in the front as well, as all of a sudden they're finding a few holes, and they've moved it from their own 34 down to the 35 of LaGrande. They look to the sidelines for the play. It's going to be second down and 6. Cheesemakers, right to left across your radio dial, going with the wind here in the third. 2 backs in the backfield again. They'll hand off again to Werner. Werner with a good hole left side, going to go inside the 30 and get enough for the first down. He'll go down to about the 28-yard line as they move the chains for the third time in a row. Cheesemakers trying to come out and say, we're going to dominate this half. Let's get it done. You've been beating us in a line of scrimmage, but no more. LaGrande has a player down, a defensive linebacker down. Now he's going to get up and get himself off the field.
Oh, he's limping pretty good.
Yep. He had that calf wrapped already, and it looks like he got it again. So first down, Cheesemakers at the 28-yard line of the Tigers. And confusion in the backfield. Werner thought he was leaving. Now he's coming back. They're going to go split backs, I believe, but I'm not sure they're convinced what they're doing. Oh, they're going to look to throw. Going to throw left side wide open. Hurleman. He catches it at the 2. He got himself open. He made a diving catch at the 2-yard line. He looked at the official. The official looked at him, and they said, okay, I think you caught it. First down, Cheesemakers at the 3. Tillamook comes to the line of scrimmage. First and goal from the 3. They're going to hand, no. Illegal procedure, I believe, as flags fly. Oh, no, it's going to be offsides against LaGrande. So an offsides penalty against LaGrande. Cheesemakers, are they going to bring in the diesel package is the question. As they go inside the 2, does not look like it.
No, Hoskins is staying on the field, so it doesn't look like it. I'm assuming if they get stuffed here, they might go to it.
Yeah, and I'm not sure because they have their own diesel set on the far side. Split backs in the backfield. First and goal from the 2. Hoskins sets up. Snap, hands to Werner. Werner not going to get in. He might have gotten to the 1. I think he did. He got about half of what he needed. It'll be second and goal. Cheesemakers look to the sidelines. They'll go over and get the play. 8:19 left to play in the third period, 14-7. Tillamook trying to take the 2-score lead. It's been a great drive to open up the second half, but it means nothing if you can't stuff it in. Up underneath center. Whitlatch going to be the lead. The up back, deep back's going to be Werner. The snap, hand to Werner. Touchdown, Cheesemakers! In off the right side as the right side of the offensive line just collapsed the defense of the Tigers, and the Cheesemakers lead 20-7 on a fabulous drive. 64, make that 66-yard drive as the Cheesemakers take 4 minutes and 7 seconds off the clock and drive it down the field for the score. My goodness, extra point, critically important again. Ball's down, kicks up, and it is good. 21-7, Tillamook leads, 7:53 left to play in the third, back in 1 minute. Welcome back, deep kick to LaGrande. They return it up the far side, now trying to return back the other way. Tripped up and taken down out at the 30, making 34-yard line as on the return was Show. And that will be first down for LaGrande from there with 7:43 left to play in the third. Matt, what about that scoring drive?
Yeah, scoring drive for the Cheesemakers started at the 34-yard line, so they went 66 yards. It took them 9 plays. Big play of that drive was the 37-yard pass to Hurleman that got us down to the 2, and then it took us 2 more plays to stuff it into the end zone with Werner. Now
you need a stop. You have that 2-score lead you're looking to take into the fourth period with. Quarterback going to keep it on the run, left side, into a pile. No, he's going to kick it out of the right side. He's got a little bit of room, dodging and weaving. Now he drives himself ahead, and he's going to pick up about 8. I don't know where he went. He was inside, and then he all of a sudden was squirting outside. You've got to keep containment on him, and Tillamook did a pretty good job and still gave up 9 yards. So Williams on the carry, his most explosive carry of the night, and if in the end of this game his longest carry is 9 yards, Tillamook's probably going to be happy. Second down and 1. See if they try to put the ball in the air on this second and short, knowing they can probably get the first down on third anyway. Williams, nope, going to hand to Fields. He fumbles the ball, and Tillamook has it. It was popped loose by Sam Diaz. It bounced once and fell right into the hands of the Cheesemakers Moncrief. Turnover, LaGrande, Cheesemakers with the ball.
Sam Diaz getting in the backfield, immediately punching the ball out, and now he's just standing out on the field waiting for offense to come out.
Unbelievable. The fourth turnover of the game for LaGrande. And that one was forced by Sam Diaz. Cheesemakers take it right back on offense, see if they can pick up where they left off. Hurleman goes wide to the right. Up at the line of scrimmage are the Tigers. They're going to hand left side to Werner. He's going to go into a pile and not get much there. Fields on the tackle for the Tigers. I'm a little surprised Tillamook didn't take a shot there. I thought with a big exchange like that, they may look for Hurleman down the sidelines again, but instead they tried to come back and create the dominance they had on the last possession. LaGrande did a nice job of really packing the box. Tillamook's going to have to come back now with the change-up. They're going to have to throw something different here.
Yeah, two-back set again. I mean, when you got two backs like Werner and Whitlatch, why not go to this?
Going back to throw, looking left side, wheel route down the left sideline to Hurleman. He can't get there. Pretty well covered there by Show, and that'll be incomplete. It'll bring up 3rd down and 9 for the Cheesemakers at the 41-yard line.
So they did go for it, but I think I agree with you. I'd rather go for it on 1st down there, right after the turnover, see if you can get a big play to really shove it in LaGrande's face.
That was a slow developing play there on what we used to call a TD switch, inside receiver and outside receiver switching locations and routes. And now it's 3rd down and 9, and the Tiger fans stomping on the bleachers, moving everything up here on our side of the field. Cheesemaker fans on the far side trying to stay warm. They're going to hand off to Whitlatch. Whitlatch going to run inside the 40, inside the 30. 1st down, Cheesemakers. Whitlatch on the carry for 15. They moved the chains on the run when it looked on 3rd and long like they were going to have to throw the ball. That is not the case. And the Cheesemakers move the chains and have the 1st down.
LaGrande doesn't really have an answer for Whitlatch defensively. His shortest carry is 6 yards.
Two backs in the backfield again. Going to hand to Whitlatch. Well, that's going to end. No, he's stiff-armed, keeps going, and now there's a flag down. Cheesemaker's going to have this one called back on a holding penalty. Whitlatch ended up picking up about 3 on the play, but the flag was thrown in at 25. That's going to be marched back to the 35 on the hold. And it will be 1st down all over again, so at least you have 4 downs. Oh, no, it's going to be tripping. That could be a 15 then. That's going to be a huge penalty against the Cheesemakers there. So the ball goes all the way out to the 41. That's the first major penalty the Cheesemakers have had tonight.
I think only the 2nd penalty of the night, isn't it?
Yeah. And that's a tough one now, as Cheesemakers were certainly on a roll. And now they've got a long ways to go. We'll see what they try to do. Going with the wind with 5:40 left to play in the 3rd. They're going to throw right side. Pass is complete. It's McKibben. McKibben going to get ahead down to about the 30-yard line. So they're going to pick up 10 or 11 on that play. Really nice chunk play to make these next 3 downs more manageable. Cheesemakers have the ball at the 31-yard line of LaGrande. They've had to cover that same 10 yards there twice due to the penalty.
Yeah, and that was a really good pickup on 1st down right there. It makes this doable here.
They'll hand off. Werner, he's trying to break outside. Now he cuts back the other way. Nice cut. Stay on your feet inside the 30. Back against the grain. It's 25. Makes another cut down to the 20, and the Cheesemakers are going to have 3rd and about 3.
And you love to see that. Hoskins, after Werner cut back, you see Hoskins come into the play to make a block. You love seeing your quarterback. Well, maybe you don't love it, but I love seeing a quarterback do that.
It is 3rd down and 3. Cheesemakers at the 20. Quickly to the line of scrimmage. LaGrande running players in, and they have to call a timeout. Who knows if that'll come into play later, as Cheesemakers have to waste a timeout in order to get enough defenders onto the field, as Cheesemakers came to the line of scrimmage in a hurry after that great run by Judah Werner. He came to the left side there, cut it back to the right, found a little seam, but he was stumbling the whole way. Finally caught himself and then got the block from Hoskins, made one cut left, picked up another 4 or 5 yards, and now you have 2 downs to get that 3 yards that's sitting in front of you between that and the yard-to-gain marker. 4:06 left to play in the third period. Tillamook with a 21-7 lead, trying to pull a huge upset here and earn their way into the state championship game next week. Both teams on the sidelines now going to come back to the middle. As title sponsor of the OSAA State Championship, On Point does everything it can to help our teams and community get ahead. Cheesemakers come to the line of scrimmage with 2 backs in the backfield. Next to Hoskins. It's going to be a Hoskins keeper on the far side. He's getting pushed to the sidelines, not going to get anything there, and he's thrown down for about a 4-yard loss. Coming up quickly there was Collins to make the play, and instead of 4th down and 3, they're going to have 4th down and 7 now from the 25-yard line.
Yeah, that's a play that Hoskins has got to recognize that he's probably not going to get anywhere, so he should just put his foot in the ground and try to get back to the line of scrimmage. Instead, he tried to stretch that outside and ended up losing about 4.
So Tillamook has come up with some big plays. No better time than a big one right here with 3.5 left to play in the third. As the Cheesemakers face with 4th and 7 from the LaGrande 25. And Tillamook will call timeout.
Another one.
3:15 left to play. And we will keep this. These officials have done a great job tonight. One thing they have not done a great job about is getting a full minute in timeouts. When both teams are ready, they just start and play, as opposed to waiting for that media timeout for 60 seconds. And we've already missed more than we want to miss in this when we're gone. And so we'll keep it right here, and our sponsors will understand because they're hanging on every word as well. As you know, all of Tillamook is listening to the state semifinal action. The ones that aren't are the ones that are already here, and that's a huge crew of them out there, a huge crowd on the far side and many on the near side that are Cheesemaker fans. And after the short timeout, Tillamook will come to the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, let's see what Kai has drawn up for a situation like this.
3 receivers to the near side, and all the defenders are right on him. Hoskins going to roll right. Now he stops, throws back to the left for Hurleman. Just off his fingertip. It was overthrown by about a foot as Hoskins flipped it back. Hurleman would have scored, but he could not hang on. And now there's a flag thrown way after the play over by the Cheesemaker bench that will probably be against the Cheesemakers. There weren't any LaGrande players over there at all, and so the ball goes over on downs to LaGrande at the 25, and it may come out past that. And it will be a 15-yard penalty. So something said or done on the far side that the Cheesemakers wish they could have taken back now. And LaGrande, with 3:10 left to play, will take over with the ball at their own 39-yard line. Now, going into the wind has been a challenge for the Tigers so far in this game. They'll be doing that for the next 3 minutes and 10 seconds before they get to go with the wind. And the wind has not changed at all. They said it was going to quit at game time. They are liars. One back in the backfield. Quarterback going to keep to the left side. Hesitates, comes up the middle. He fumbled the ball. I think the Cheesemakers have it again. They do. Again, the quarterback fumbled the ball as he had it swatted loose. And for the 5th turnover of the ball game. And the quarterback, Williams, is down on the ground, being attended to by trainers from both sides, holding his left shoulder. And the Cheesemakers will get the ball back on the fumble, the 5th turnover of the ball game. 3 fumbles, 2 interceptions. And the Cheesemakers get it back with 3:03 left to play in the third period, leading 21-7. As they tend to him, we'll take a 1-minute break. We'll be back after this. Welcome back to Cheesemaker football. Werner going to the right side. He gets pushed outside, and he gets swung around and thrown down, and a flag comes out. That's going to be a horse collar. the Cheesemakers going to be the benefactor of a 15-yard penalty against LaGrande, and the Cheesemakers will move the chains and have it first down at the 30. That was a huge break for Tillamook.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we've been starting behind the chains the last couple possessions, but there, and it would have happened again there. Very fortunate with that horse collar.
It'll be first down again, and after it's penalty 15 yards from the point, so it's going to be 1st and 1. This guy says it should be 2nd down, but that's not right. It should get first down over again. You don't accept the penalty and lose the down. And so officials agree on that. And it'll be first down Cheesemakers at the 30 of LaGrande. 2:47 left to play in the third. They'll hand off. No, it's going to be Hoskins. Little jab step. He's going to get a first down as Diaz just buried a guy in the backfield. I believe it's going to be enough for the first down. We'll see. They haven't moved the chains yet. No, they're going to say it's short of the first down.
Wow. That's right on the line to gain.
Yeah. All right, so it'll be 2nd down and 1 for the Cheesemakers, and LaGrande is really packing tackle to tackle and coming up hard. You're going to have to do something to break that momentum by the defensive line of LaGrande. Motion across the formation. They're going to hand on the fly sweep to Moncrief. He cuts it up and gets the first down. He always can lower his head and get just what he needs. Very, very aware player. Yeah. And the Cheesemakers have moved the chains with 2 minutes left in the third period, and a 21-7 Tillamook lead here in the state semifinals.
Yeah, that's one thing you love about Moncrief. On the offensive and defensive side of the ball, he's just a very smart player.
Extremely. He and McKibben are just extremely savvy.
Yeah.
Moncrief comes out of the ball game. Whitlatch back in. They'll go with that split back, pro set, and shotgun look for Hoskins. 3 receivers, no 2 on the left side. They'll hand to Whitlatch straight up the middle. He kicks to the outside, inside the 25, inside the 20. He's going to pick up another 10, and Whitlatch has been the difference in this second half.
Yeah, he's running the ball north and south, just finding a gap, sticking his foot in the ground, and getting forward. He's gaining. He's breaking a tackle on every run.
They're going to say it's short of the first down by about a yard. He picked up 9. They marked him back at the 20. Cheesemakers quick to the ball, come to the line of scrimmage. Nice stiff arm by Whitlatch. He'll get the first down this time as he spins and finally gets knocked out of bounds at about the 15.
He took a hard hit there on the sideline.
He sure did. He pops right back up, and back into the huddle he comes, which is not a huddle. It's actually back to the line of scrimmage. So the Cheesemakers have moved the chains. They have the ball at the LaGrande 15. A touchdown here would be so massive. I can't even tell you how massive. Even a field goal here would be huge.
Field goal here would make a huge difference in this game.
2-score lead right now with 2 backs in the backfield by Hoskins. They're going to hand off this time to Werner. Into a pile he goes, not much there. He rolls his way ahead to the 14, but it'll only be a gain of a yard. They have certainly keyed on Werner. Of course, he's the only kid that carried the ball in the first half. In the second half, the change-up with Whitlatch has caused him some problems. 38 seconds left to play in the third period going with the wind. Tillamook's going to end up, unless they throw the ball a couple times here, finishing this quarter going into the wind, which will really take a lot of your field goal opportunities away. 2 backs in the backfield. Second down, Tillamook's going to look to throw. They throw left side. Hurleman, beautiful defensive play, knocked that away.
Yeah, that was a great play by the defender there.
Yeah, perfectly covered by the defensive back, number 24, Griffin McKilmail. And it'll be 3rd down and 9, Cheesemakers at the 14. With 11 seconds left as the clock stops. So if you throw the ball again here, you could kick a field goal. If you don't get the first down, you could kick a field goal with the wind here before you change ends. And now LaGrande's going to take another timeout. Boy, they have been free to use their timeouts early in the game. I don't believe we can go away because, again, their timeouts have been short, and this is too critical as we get a score 7-6. Scappoose in the third quarter in the other state semifinal game. How fun would that be to have an All-Coapa League championship game? But we're a long ways away from that in both of these.
Yeah, I can't think about that right now.
I don't really care who we'd play in a state championship game. That would not matter at all.
No.
So third down here, and I don't know if Kai's thinking, you're in a four-down situation, whether your fourth down is to move the ball by run or play or whether it's by kick. If you throw the ball here, you keep the option to kick open. Also would be a time that would be worth using a timeout.
I almost like giving the ball to Whitlatch here.
Whitlatch is on the right side of the quarterback. Quarterback back, quarterback draw. Up the middle, now going to try to get to the outside. Now he's running to the edge, to the corner at the 7-yard line and out of bounds with 4 seconds remaining. That will be about 1.5 yards short. He has to go to the 5 for the first down, and now this is what you get the big bucks for as a head coach, which are not really that big at all. But you've got fourth down and 2 from the 7. So you have the opportunity of a field goal attempt. No, they're going to go for it. They stay with their regular offensive set. Cheesemakers come up and get set. Fourth down. They'll hand off. Warner, he's going to get the first down, and he scores! Warner right up the middle for the touchdown on the final play of the third quarter. The Cheesemakers deliver on 4th and 2, and they've taken control in the state semifinals. What a great play by the offensive line as they created a hole on the right side. Whitlatch with a lead, Warner on the run, and from 7 yards out, the Cheesemakers now lead it 27-7, and they can tack one more on with the extra point. Hoskins waits, falls down, kicks up. It is good. Can you believe it? 28-7 Cheesemakers after 3. We'll be back in 1 minute. Welcome back to Cheesemaker football. Cheesemakers lead 28-7. My hands are shaking. Holy smokes, that was gut check time there. And apparently there is a 15-yard penalty against LaGrande at the end of that because the Cheesemakers are going to kick off across midfield at the 45-yard line. Now they're kicking into the wind.
That's helpful.
But you certainly could bounce the ball around. The Cheesemakers have taken the lead 28-7, shocking the 4A world right now and shocking the LaGrande Tigers. Tillamook will kick off into the wind. Pooch kick, far side. Oh, it's going to be fielded on the front line. I don't like that on the soft. I would drive it right at him, but either way, LaGrande's going to pick up the ball at the 32-yard line, and that's where they will take over here to start the fourth period of play. That drive, what do you have?
Yeah, on that drive we had 9 plays and 61 yards is what the Cheesemakers went. It took them 3 minutes and 3 seconds. Finished with a fourth down conversion on 4th and 2 from the 7-yard line, and Judah Warner punched it into the end zone.
How huge was that?
Oh, my gosh, going up 3 scores now with 1 quarter to go.
LaGrande throws post route. Great catch down there by Sitzes, and it'll go all the way out to midfield. So 1 play, and LaGrande is in Cheesemaker territory as we open up the final period of play. You cannot get complacent now, and that was good coverage by Gunder. That was just a great pitch and catch. As back into the game, of course, is their quarterback Logan Williams after he had fumbled and then was hurt on the ground, but I think Pride might have been hurt as much as his left arm was. Quarterback shotgun set. Williams back to throw. Throws over the middle, and that was overthrown over his tight end who was crossing. That was Basenius, and that was thrown high. It doesn't look to me like Logan Williams has faced a whole lot of pressure this year.
No, it doesn't. He doesn't look very comfortable tonight at all.
Because the Cheesemakers have put enough pressure on him. He's gotten some happy feet back there and really just wanted to get rid of the ball. 2nd down and 10 from midfield. LaGrande. They're going to hand off right side. Moves up the field, going to get enough for the first down all the way down to the 38-yard line. And LaGrande, on a nice carry there, will turn the chains over, as now they're in a much bigger hurry as they find themselves down 28-7 with 11:15 left to play in the game. Carrying the ball, that was, I'll find him over here, that was Dominic Caratello, number 34. He comes in as a running back for LaGrande. They get set with a slot and a split on the left side. Williams, he's going to keep it himself. Now he's going to run option. He breaks open far side. He could score. At the 25, at the 20, at the 10, and they're going to say he stepped out of bounds at the 3-yard line. That's what the Cheesemakers have tried to defend against the entire ball game, and Whitlatch comes hobbling off the field. Oh, that's a huge loss for the Cheesemakers, as Whitlatch, such a key piece to that defense, and that's going to make things interesting. Wayhanger comes into the ball game. Also back in is Sam Diaz. First and goal, LaGrande. This clock is going to take forever from here on out. LaGrande, shotgun set. Quarterback going to run. Power on the right side. He's drugged down. Nice stop there by Barry Killian, I believe, as he came across, made a nice tackle on Williams. It'll be second and goal from the 2. LaGrande is not a team that really tries to hustle a lot, run a lot of plays, stuff like that. They're not a fast-paced team normally, although they certainly, I'm sure, have that in their game. Cheesemakers on defense, second and goal from the 2 for LaGrande. Quarterback going to roll back and look to throw. He throws into the end zone. It's in it. Oh, it dropped. Oh, it was right in the hands of McKibben in the back of the end zone. It was an easy interception, and it was dropped. Oh, he'll have nightmares about that one.
Yeah, that's not characteristic of Parker.
No.
He's got pretty sure hands. He's a receiver on the offensive side of the football. Maybe that just surprised him. He went right to him.
Just thrown right at him. I mean, that should have been the 6th turnover of the game. Quarterback Williams up under center this time. They're going to send motion. They'll throw it to the right side, complete, touchdown. Fitzus with the score, and it is a 2-score difference now as LaGrande marches it right down the field as they use 2 minutes and 11 seconds. And the 2-yard pass by Williams to Fitzus, and now they'll attempt the extra point. They wait. Ball's down, kicks up. He's going to miss it. It's wide right, no good, and it's 28-13 Cheesemakers with 9:49 left to play in the game. We'll be back in 1 minute. Welcome back to Cheesemaker football. Cheesemakers go back to return the kickoff. As they approach the ball, they are going to go ahead and kick it deep. Bounces up, picked up at the 10. Gunder returns it back up to the 20, 25, 30, 35, and down there he goes. And so the Cheesemakers will take over on offense after giving up a pretty nice drive by LaGrande. A couple big pass plays, a long run by Williams, and then a 2-yard pass into the end zone to Fitzus. And the Cheesemakers will take the ball back on their own 35-yard line. And now's when you need a big time-possessing drive.
Yeah, and I'm sure LaGrande defense knows that right now. This is really important that we don't take too much time off the clock.
They're going to load the box for sure, and here they come. Going to hand off to Werner on the far side. He slips a tackle in the backfield and then gets back to the line of scrimmage +1 is all. And it'll be 2nd down and 9 for the Cheesemakers. It's time for the Cheesemakers to come back. Misdirection with something. They're just blowing so hard to the ball. You don't want anything chancy that would turn it over, but you certainly need something that tries to slow those linebackers down as they come through so quickly. Cheesemakers going into the wind, 2nd down and 9. They'll hand off to Whitlatch. He's hit immediately at the line of scrimmage. Fields going to be a loss of 2. So Fields, they're just stunt linebackers. They're sending everybody saying, you're not going to do anything about this.
Yeah.
Other than what you've been doing. And they're right on the first 2 plays. We'll see what happens here.
Yeah, they're going to force us to try to pass the ball here.
It'll be 3rd down and 12. Cheesemakers still lead 28-13, but there's 8:30 left to play in the game. If there's a minute 30, I'd feel a whole lot better.
Yeah.
2 backs in the backfield, 2 receivers on the right side. Remember, you're throwing into the wind if you throw. Quarterback, Hoskins, sets up. He fakes the handoff. He'll keep it himself, slides by left side, and gets back to the original line of scrimmage, and that's it. So the Cheesemakers will have to go into punt formation and try to kick the ball away into the wind. And we knew the wind was going to be a factor, and it certainly has been.
Yeah.
Tillamook set up the first score with a blocked punt by LaGrande, set up LaGrande's first score.
Yeah. Yeah, I know you want to keep the clock moving as much as possible, but I would like to see us be a little bit more aggressive there and go to the air for a first down.
High snap. Oh, Hurtleman goes up and gets it and then kicks it away, and it's not going to get anything past the line of scrimmage.
Oh, man.
Cheesemakers hanging on. 28-13 is Cheesemakers. That snap almost went over Hurleman's head. He did a great job, probably his best catch of the night, as he went up, got a piece of that, and then got the kick off, but it went straight up in the air as he had a defender right in front of him.
Yeah, we're very fortunate there that Dean's athletic back there.
Yeah. So LaGrande gets the ball back at the 33 of Tillamook. This is the first possession they've started tonight, other than the one they scored early at the 7 from Tillamook territory. They're going to hand it in the backfield. He's going to get buried. It's Barry Killian and Sam Diaz in the backfield for a loss of 3 as the Cheesemakers stop Caratello. It'll be 2nd down. They're going to say it's a loss of almost 4, I guess. 2nd down and 14.
Yeah, that's exactly what you need to do right after a poor offensive possession. Come out and stuff them.
Yeah, that was a poor offensive possession. Now the defense has to step up. Watch for the throw here as Williams sets up in the shotgun set, ready to go into the pocket. He sends motion across the formation in Collins. Cheesemakers do not adjust. They're going to keep it with Williams. Williams dancing and jiving, far side, caught, wrapped up, and down he goes.
That was played perfectly by the Cheesemaker defense.
It was Whitlatch who got a good piece of him, and then he got a bunch of buddies to come finish him off. And it's a loss of another 4 on the play. It's going to bring up 3rd down and 18. Ball goes back to the 46.
And that was a triple option. Quarterback had the option to hand it off, chose not to. And he also had the option to throw the bubble screen there, but that was covered well, so he couldn't throw that. And then there were 4 Cheesemakers right there to tackle him. 3rd
down and long. Everything's 4-down situation now for LaGrande. 28-13, Tillamook leads. Halfway through the final period. Back to throw. Looks left, going to hang it up down the left sidelines. It is caught. Oh, what a great catch. Sits with the catch inside the 25-yard line.
Oh, man, that's the same route that they've completed a couple times. We got to be ready for that.
That ball was caught right off the top of the turf, and on 3rd and 18, they get 20 yards off it. Cheesemaker defense didn't give up a score. Got to get strong now with 5:30 left to play in the game. One back in the backfield with the quarterback, Williams. Williams going to look left, look right. Now he's going to scramble. He's got a lot of room on the outside. Can't catch him at the 25, at the 20, down to the 10, out of bounds at about the 6-yard line. As soon as you looked out there and saw it was him against Whitlatch, you were in trouble.
Yeah, Whitlatch is strong, tough kid. He's a good tackler, but he's just not.
Yeah,
he doesn't have the speed to catch Williams.
Not as fast as Williams. And Williams, after an absolutely horrid night of mistakes, is trying to make up for all of them here in this fourth quarter. 5:11 left to play in the game, 28-13 Cheesemakers. Trying to hold on as LaGrande has all of a sudden come to life. Shotgun set. High snap, but it goes to the fullback down the lane, and he scores. LaGrande fans have a lot to cheer about now as it's 28-19 with an extra point, 2-point conversion coming as the Cheesemaker defense looked tired there. Into the end zone went Caratello, and LaGrande's going to go for two. Make it a one-score game.
This is huge right here.
Cheesemakers need a stop here. Motion right to left. Quarterback going to roll right. Throws into the flats. Complete touchdown. Or two-point conversion. Way too easy. Out into the flats, the same pass they scored on earlier. And with 5:05 left to play, Cheesemakers lead is 28-21. We'll be back in 1 minute. Welcome back. Kickoff return by Gunder, runs it straight up the middle, and he fumbles the ball, and at the 25, the Cheesemakers fall on it. I think it was Wayhanger who saved the day there as the Cheesemakers grasping and hanging on to sand as it slips through their fingers as LaGrande back-to-back has driven the ball down the field and made it look easy on the score. And now it's a one-possession game. Tillamook led 28-7 and actually we're up 28-14. Should have had an interception in the end zone. Dropped it. LaGrande scored on the next play, and now it's 28-21. And Tillamook has the ball at their own 25. Hoskins in the backfield. They'll hand off straight ahead. Nothing going again. Right back to the line of scrimmage, and LaGrande is just absolutely plugged up the middle of the field, and the Cheesemakers can't get out of it right now.
And we need a first down here, and like we were talking about earlier, those timeouts might come back to haunt LaGrande.
They have one timeout remaining with 4:30 left to play in the game. Quick snap, play action pass. Hoskins in the backfield, in trouble. Now he breaks out near side. He's got to run. No, he's going to throw it down the field. Hurleman is open. Complete at the 46-yard line as Hoskins kept it alive and finally found Hurleman on a long throw into the wind at the 47. The Cheesemakers have turned the chains over, and that was desperation. Hoskins was in so much trouble back at his own 15. He finally worked himself free to the right side. Somebody right on his heels. I thought, you got to run it. But all of a sudden he saw his favorite receiver down the field, Hurleman. Hurleman just curled around it, caught it, and went to the ground. The Cheesemakers have the first down with 3:50 left and counting.
Well, that was all Hoskins, too. He made that happen.
Shotgun set. Going to hand off. Warner, he'll try to get to the outside. At the 50, at the 45, turns the corner, out of bounds he goes at the 36-yard line.
They want to try to keep that in bounds there,
but he did turn the corner, and he got the first down. So you get a new set of downs at the 37. The Cheesemakers are playing with a chance or a trip to the state championship game on the line. They have the ball at the LaGrande 37 with 3:34. Clock stopped. Left to play in the game in a 28-21 lead. Hoskins sets up in the shotgun again. They'll hand off to Werner. Same play. Left side. He cuts it up. Going to get another 10 yards. This time he stays in bounds. The Cheesemaker offense, inspired by the big play by Hoskins and Zion Hurleman, and the Cheesemakers move the chains as it goes down to the 25-yard line as the clock winds. 3:15 left to play in the game. And counting. Cheesemakers probably need one more first down to wrap this thing up. Cheesemakers, two backs in the backfield. Send a receiver to the right-hand side. Hoskins waits, gets set, and they snap the ball off. Oh, it dropped the ball in the fumble, and it's LaGrande ball. Whitlatch fumbled the ball at the 30-yard line. The Cheesemakers, all they had to do is run the clock out. Probably needed one more timeout. And the ball was punched out, and the first turnover of the ball game, well, besides the block punt, goes against the Cheesemakers.
Oh, man. That's exactly what you can't do in a situation. Even if you lose yards in this situation, you cannot drop the football. And I don't know if Gilbert ever had a handle on that handoff.
2:42 left to play in the game. Now LaGrande, Cheesemaker defense. Tillamook's still ahead. You just got to have a stop. Quarterback going to hand off. Costello on the left side. He's going to run himself ahead. He'll get it to the 40-yard line, and LaGrande quickly comes to the line of scrimmage. As I think Hurleman was saying he had the ball, but they said he was down, and I think he was. One back in the backfield, 2:18 left to play.
There we go.
As LaGrande goes back to throw. Looks left, looks right, has a man open down the right sideline. It's incomplete. Oh, that would have gone for 6.
I don't know. It looks like the receiver just reached out with one hand.
That's exactly what it looked like. It looked like he reached out with one hand instead of grabbing it with two, and he would have scored.
The ball was placed perfectly. That was a great pass by Williams. I don't know why he thought he had to reach out with just one hand. He could have had both hands on that. It was right in the breadbasket.
3rd down and 1, LaGrande from their own 40. They send Sitsos to the near side. Guy that just dropped the ball. They'll go back to him. He's been their favorite receiver. Williams looks left, pump fake. Now he's going to reverse to the right-hand side. Here he goes down the right sideline again. Out of bounds he'll go at the 46-yard line, 49-yard line. Minute 53 left in the game. 28-21. Cheesemakers by 7. As the first down is gained by LaGrande. And out of bounds, so the clock stays stopped. Cheesemakers have 2 timeouts remaining. They might, on a dead ball situation, look to use one of those to have Dan Seaholm's defense collect themselves. You knew it wasn't going to be easy. It looked like it might be there for a while, but we're kidding ourselves. Williams, back to throw again. Pressure right side, throws it down the right sideline. Incomplete. Good defense. Oh, no.
Beautifully.
A flag?
No, where?
There is. Penalty flag down.
Oh,
that sure didn't look like interference, but we were a long ways away from it, so that'll be a 15-yard penalty against Cheesemakers. As it looked like great coverage there.
Yeah, I didn't see, and that flag is, man, that's further towards the line of scrimmage than where the receiver is trying to catch the ball. So I don't know if the interference happened earlier on the route, but that would be illegal contact.
It would be. So LaGrande has the ball at the 38 of Tillamook. Down by 7 are the Tigers with a minute 46 left to play in the game. Quarterback Williams, high snap, going to roll. Stop, throws back against the grain. Intercepted! Intercepted, Cheesemakers! It's Moncrief, and he goes down. The Cheesemakers intercept the ball. It's Moncrief, Tyler Moncrief on the pick.
And again, of course, it's Moncrief. He's always in the right position.
And the Cheesemakers, with a minute 35 remaining, have intercepted the ball, and they get it back, and that should take them into the state championship game if they can make a snap and take a knee. A minute 35 remaining. The Cheesemakers, a huge interception when it looked like LaGrande was going down the field to tie this game up. LaGrande has 1 timeout remaining. They'll go up under center with Moncrief.
They'll only be able to stop the clock once, and mathematically,
it's going to be close. up under center. They'll step back and take a knee. One thing I'd like to see Hoskins do here is step back but not take a knee until you have somebody in your face.
Yeah.
Estacada on a score in the third quarter leads 14-7 over Scappoose. Cheesemakers are a minute 30 away from playing either Estacada or Scappoose for the Oregon High School 4A state championship. Only one time in the history of the Cheesemakers football program have they played in that game. 1977. That was decades ago because I know I was there, and the Cheesemakers would like to be back again. Minute 30 left to play in the game. The Cheesemakers on the timeout will come over and talk to the coach. And so mathematically, Mr. Math Teacher, if you take a knee, you should run about 35 seconds per play off, and you have two more of those to go. That means you have about 70 seconds.
Yeah.
I don't think you can run it all the way out here.
I don't think so either. It's going to be really close, though. We'll be – I mean, if LaGrande does get the ball back, it's going to be very short clock.
Cheesemakers come up. They'll go back, and again, as soon as you go back and take a knee, then they can grab the ball, get it set for play. And that was second down, and so you can only do that one more time because when you do it on fourth down, it stops. And so the Cheesemakers, there's
going to be about 20 seconds left.
Yeah, and you don't want to punt. Holy smokes, that's been the biggest disaster you've had is punting into the wind. And so I really think you need to start running wide, doing something that will create more time and also get the ball out there so it takes them longer to set it.
Yeah, they're going to run a play here.
So shotgun set. They'll hand it off. It's going to go to Werner left side. He's going to get wrapped up and then thrown down backwards. And they will reset. See, now they have to bring the ball back to the middle of the field. Those are all seconds that are going off the clock. As soon as the official sets the clock, I think he's telling them it's over. The ball was set at the 25. There's 20 seconds left. Cheesemakers are not going to have to run another play. The Cheesemaker sideline is celebrating, and the Tillamook Cheesemakers are going to pull the upset over the number 2 ranked team in the state, 28-21 over the LaGrande Tigers here at Barlow High School. What an incredible season this has been for Coach Kai Johnson and the Cheesemakers as they are going to the state championship game as they send the number 2 ranked team in the state home with their third loss of the season. The Cheesemakers, 10 wins and 2 losses, and they'll be one of only 2 teams remaining in the state playoffs. The Cheesemakers win at 28-21, and there is a celebration on the far side, and there should be a celebration in Tillamook as well as the Cheesemakers win it 28-21. We'll recap this whole thing for you after this 2-minute break for our sponsors. Welcome back to Cheesemaker Football and Sports Extra, brought to you by the Tillamook Farmers Co-op. This OSAA On Point Credit Union. State semifinal championship action. The next time you hear us, it'll be state championship football action as the Cheesemakers have pulled the upset at Sam Barlow High School against the LaGrande Tigers as they knock off the number 2 ranked team in the state, 28-21 in a nail-biting thriller here at Barlow as the Cheesemakers win it with such a gutsy performance that, man, it's hard to even recap this whole thing because so much went on. But I'm telling you, it was a game for the ages, and we seem to have been saying that every week, Matt.
Yeah, we do. We've had a lot of close games here, and Cheesemakers are just finding ways to win.
Let's look at the scoring in this game. If you didn't join us early enough, the Cheesemakers scored with 2:44 left to play in the first period as Werner went in from 5 yards out. The extra point was good. That was a one-play 6-yard drive after the Maciel interception set that up. The Cheesemakers scored their second touchdown of the night with 9:49 left to play in the first half. That was Werner from 6 yards out again. The extra point was good. That was a 37-yard drive with a big screen pass to Juno Werner to keep that thing going. The Cheesemakers then gave up a score to LaGrande, made it 14-7 as LaGrande's Williams went in, their quarterback from 2 yards out. That was in the second quarter. LaGrande got the ball back at the end of the first half, but could not get down and get points on the board, and so the Cheesemakers went into the halftime locker room ahead 14-7. The key drive of the ball game came in the opening drive of the third quarter when the Cheesemakers got it at their own 34-yard line. They went 9 plays and 66 yards and just said, we're going to be tougher than you, as they drove it down the field. Cheesemakers scored on a 1-yard run by Werner, his third of the ball game. The big play on that was a 37-yard pass play to Zion Herleman in a critical spot, and the Cheesemakers, with the score and the extra point, went up 21-7. Tillamook got it back one more time before the end of the third period, and on a 4th and 2 from the 7, correct, the Cheesemakers decided to go for it on 4th down instead of kicking the field goal and making this a 3-possession game. They handed it to Judah Werner, and he took it up the middle and scored from 7 yards out. That was a 61-yard, 9-play drive that took 3 minutes off the clock, converting again on a 4th and 2, and the Cheesemakers led 28-7. LaGrande got it right back. They drove it right down the field, and they had it they had the wind at their back. As they drove it down the field, they got to the 2-yard line and threw a pass into the end zone that hit McKibben right in the numbers, and he dropped it. It would have been the interception that I think would have ended the game there, because the Cheesemakers would have come out with a 3-score lead and been able to run time off the clock. But instead, they lost or missed that opportunity. The next play, LaGrande scored, and then LaGrande all of a sudden had some momentum going as they were down 28-13 after the missed extra point. Cheesemakers went 3 and out and had a punt that only went back to the line of scrimmage. LaGrande pushed it down the field and pushed it in from 6 yards out, and then went from 2 for 2, which they converted as well. That was with 5 minutes left to play in the game. Cheesemakers' lead was then 28-21. They kicked off to the Cheesemakers. Tillamook had it at their own 30-yard line. First down, they went nowhere, and on second down, Hoskins went back. He was in trouble all the way back to his own 15. He scrambled himself free to the right side. It looked like maybe he could pick up a little bit of room running the ball, and then he flipped it downfield, and Zion Herleman was open across midfield. He caught the ball curling around it, and the Cheesemakers all of a sudden flipped the field, and that was the play that really changed this game, or that really sealed it for the Cheesemakers. Not that there wasn't other sealings that had to happen later. And the Cheesemakers had the first down, and then they had a lot of confidence, and they just drove the ball play after play right down to the 20-yard line. And then with 2 minutes and 42 seconds left, they handed the ball left to Gilbert Whitlatch, and Whitlatch, ball just popped out of his hands, and the Cheesemakers turned it over on the fumble. And we'll talk about turnovers in just a minute. But that all of a sudden looked like what was going to cause huge issues for Tillamook, because LaGrande had shown that they can move the ball. They got the ball back. They started pushing it down the field, couple runs, couple passes, and then they got it across midfield to the 40, still with 1 minute and 45 seconds left, plenty of time. And it looked like LaGrande was going to march it down the field and score, and then they tried to throw over the middle, and there was Moncrief. Yep. And he stepped inside and picked it off, and the Cheesemakers then were able to run out the clock as they pick up the victory 28-21, and turnovers were the name of the game.
Yeah.
LaGrande came out, turned the ball over on a fumble on the first possession, an interception on the second possession, an interception on the third possession. In the second half, they started with a fumble and a fumble on their first 2 possessions, and then an interception on their final possession as well. That's 6 turnovers. Yeah. And the Cheesemakers won it 28-21. They needed every single one of them to get through this game. And the Cheesemakers' defense is what came to play, and the defense is what won this ball game 28-21. Matt's going to have the stats. We'll have those and more here on Sports Extra after this word from the Tillamook Farmers Co-op. Welcome back to Cheesemaker Football and Sports Section, brought to you by the Tillamook Farmers Co-op. This OSAA On Point Credit Union State Football Championship action as the Cheesemakers have won it 28-27 over the LaGrande Tigers here at Barlow High School as the Cheesemakers finish the semifinal game, the second trip ever to the state championship game as they win it 28-27. Matt, what about the stats?
Yeah, Cheesemakers finished this game with 42 carries for 210 yards. We rushed the ball for over 200 yards. I'm not sure how many times we've done that this season, but with Judah Werner carrying the ball, he has over 100 yards more often than not. He finished the game with 26 carries for 117 yards rushing. And Judah had 4 touchdowns. All 4 of our touchdowns were the same guy.
Wow.
The workhorse of the game tonight. And then for LaGrande, they carried the ball 24 times for 165 yards. Williams was 5 for 17. That's the big stat of this game for the Cheesemakers defensively, is they held Williams to only 5 completions on the night, which is uncharacteristic of him.
Well, and we saw his explosiveness. Cheesemakers were worried about that, and we really thought this game probably hinged on the quarterback play.
Yeah.
And in the end, it probably did, but we didn't expect it to be Tanner Hoskins. It was the difference.
Right, we didn't. And Tanner finished the game 7 for 15 for 94 yards passing, but the big thing is no interceptions.
Yeah, absolutely. No turnovers from Hoskins, 1 in the fumble on that last possession. But that was the difference in the game, and I think I said by air 28-27. 28-21 was the final score as the Cheesemakers win it by 7. Go ahead.
Yeah, so team stats, total yards for each team. The Cheesemakers finished with 304 total yards, and LaGrande finished with 228.
Wow. So the Cheesemakers should have won the game.
Yeah.
By about a touchdown.
Yep.
Oh, wait, they did.
Yep.
And
exactly.
Throwing 6 turnovers, they probably should have won it by 3 or 4 more, but we'll take it.
Yeah, you got to think, it's the end of the season, but LaGrande's probably beating themselves up for that. They know that with 6 turnovers, you're not going to win very many football games.
No, and they competed hard down the stretch. What about the rest of the stats?
Werner finished with 117 rushing yards. Hoskins finished with 9 rushes for 47 yards. Whitlatch rushed the ball 6 times for 44 yards, and Moncrief rushed it once for 2 yards. Hoskins finished 7 for 15 for 94 yards passing, and 68 of those yards were to his go-to receiver, Zian Hurleman.
Wow.
That's all the stats. Defensively, we had who had the interceptions?
McKibben had 1, Maciel had 1, and Moncrief had the last one.
Yep.
And I think that was it. Wow. Their quarterback, who was one of the best players in the state, accounted for 4 turnovers.
Yeah,
and they're going to really shake their head over that one.
He's not going to sleep well for
tonight. No. They have 18 seniors on this group, too, so that's the last game. That's going to leave a sour taste in their mouth of shoulda, coulda-haves, and would-haves, and the community of LaGrande is going to be lamenting over this for quite some time. We'll be back with a look ahead after this word from the Tillamook Farmers Co-op. Welcome back to Cheesemaker Football and Sports Extra, brought to you by the Tillamook Farmers Co-op. As Tillamook Cheesemakers win it 28-21 over LaGrande. LaGrande probably doesn't care a whole lot for Tillamook. I told you earlier in the game, one of the last big wins, upsets Tillamook had over LaGrande was in basketball in 2017 when Ian Collette as a junior and that group went over and upset the number 2 ranked team in the state in their own gym, and then went on an unlikely run in the state playoffs into the Final Four as well. But getting to the Final Four and getting to the state championship game, there is a huge difference between that.
Oh, yeah.
Because you can get breaks to get into the Final Four. You don't just get breaks to get into the state championship game. You've got to be a good team. And Tillamook, they're a good team.
Yeah, we're for real. And we've been picked as the underdog for –
Yeah.
I mean, there's even a Pick'em's, social media page that picks all the teams in Oregon. And last week we were even picked to lose to Gladstone.
Yeah. And this week, I think every every writer picked against us, and everybody said, "Oh, you're just going out to get beat by LaGrande." And it's great. You had a great season, great job, and let's move on to basketball. And these 18 seniors that are out there said, no, we got something to prove, and what we're going to prove is that we are at least as good as any team that has ever come through Tillamook High School, and they now have the opportunity to one-up the class of 1977. And although I was a captain on that team, I would be more than happy to see them do that.
Yeah. I mean, never been done in Tillamook High School history, so I mean we're watching history right now.
Never won a state championship in football. I've only played for the state championship one time, and now it's going to be two. It's going to be next Saturday. It'll be against either Scappoose or Estacada. At last report, Estacada was up 14-7 on Scappoose. Estacada's are for real team, so that's not. Yeah, I mean you don't get to the state championship game without being or for real team, so that's no surprise. They're a team that'll try to run it right at you and really power the football at you, and so that'll be great. As it is still 14-7 Estacada late in the game, fourth quarter there, and so right now it would be Estacada who Tillamook would be playing unless Scappoose can pull their second come-from-behind victory in as many weeks as they knocked off number one Mazama last week. Well, Matt, I know you're a newcomer to this whole radio thing. If I knew it was that easy and we just had to have you here to win a state title or go that far, I'd have done it a whole long time ago. As broadcasting is fun, but it's a whole lot more fun when kids play like these kids have played, and they've made it exciting, and we congratulate them, and we hope that all of Tillamook will be at the state championship football game next Saturday. I would guess, it depends, but if I had to lay money on it, just a flat guess, I'd guess Hillsboro Stadium maybe.
Oh, yeah, that'd be a good location.
Which would be a great location. Yeah. Tillamook has only played this late into the season one other time. Hopefully we'll get a nice day, unlike what we've got tonight. Was cold and windy, but it'll be great to be there no matter what the weather's like, because the Cheesemakers are one game away from doing something Tillamook's never done, and that's won a state football championship. And they should be again congratulated. 28-21, Cheesemakers win in the state semifinals, and they will play for the state championship next Saturday. This has been Sports Extra, brought to you by the Tillamook Farmers Co-op. This has been Randy Shield along with Matty Strang saying good night and good sports. It's been a KTIL sports presentation.